Cadenas, a mighty military force that preserves peace for this vast empire. Each legion among the 7 knight orders of the House of Cadenas possesses military might on par with a mid-sized nation. The descendants with the purest Cadenas lineage are said to have dragon blood flowing through their veins, and true to the name Golden Dragon, they are born with shimmering golden hair and golden eyes. They carry the blood of dragons within them, the symbol of the noble dragon. Young dragons gather here to awaken that latent power from the main family members who can use superpowers called attributes thanks to their concentrated bloodline, to the branch family members who are pushing themselves to the absolute limit to surpass their own boundaries. Everyone is testing their strength and hunting their skills. Right at the training grounds of the House of Cadenas, William gripped his sword tightly, stepped back, and stabilized his posture. On the opposite side, Burita decisively launched her next counterattack. After a while, it seemed like he hadn't taken any damage at all. So she also stopped, holding her position while panting heavily to catch her breath. While fighting, several thoughts flashed through Burita's mind. No way, I thought that even if he's number 1, if the two of us teamed up, we could still win. She glanced over at Leonard, who was sitting in a corner groaning, wondering how the number 4 could have been knocked out in the blink of an eye like that. Facing the next attack, she gritted her teeth, raised her sword, and put everything she had into bracing for the impact. But right at that split second, a blurry figure suddenly tore through the wind, cutting through the air at a terrifying speed. Burita stood frozen, her pupils shrinking in pure terror, and the only thing her mind could process was a helpless curse. Damn it. I can't track his movements at all. Ultimately, Burita sank to her knees on the ground, accompanied by a cold remark from William. Is this really the best the two of you can do even when teaming up? It's unbelievable, considering we're all direct bloodline members who have awakened our attributes. You're no match for me. Too weak, no different from the garbage of the branch family. Oh well, everything ends here anyway. The winner of this selection is me. At the headquarters of the Young Dragon Knight Order of the House of Cadenas, Fabian stood in front of the monitoring system, watching the battle from beginning to end, and remarked, "The apprentices this time have very impressive skills. So in your opinion, sir, who is worthy of the special grade title?" The assistant lowered his eyes and offered an opinion. Indeed, there are many promising young talents this time, but only one person is truly qualified for that. And that is number 1, William. Even when number 2 and number 4 attacked together, they couldn't even touch a single hair on his head. He nodded slowly, continuing in a deep voice, "If I remember correctly, number 2 and number 4 belong to the direct line as well, right?" The assistant confirmed that was exactly the case. Fabian continued to question, "How is the situation with the others?" He seriously reported the situation, stating that the branch family group had been almost completely wiped out by now. Only a few survivors managed to make it through by following the teams led by the main family. After listening, he formed his own judgment. As expected, the wall of bloodline is something insurmountable. In this training ground, numbers are the ultimate measure of strength. In other words, number 1 represents the strongest among hundreds of apprentices. Therefore, it's only natural for number 1 to be chosen as the special grade. Fabian made his decision, concluding that there was no need for further hesitation or comparison this time. The assistant listened and finalized the decision. "Then we will lock in William for the special grade position." Bluno, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke up, cutting through everyone's thoughts. "Please wait a moment, let's observe a bit longer." Fabian couldn't help but be surprised. He let out a soft gasp and asked, "What's the reason?" Bluno looked straight into his eyes and seriously stated his point of view. "Actually, there is still one branch family member who is very different. I believe it won't be too late to decide after you see his skills." Hearing this, his curiosity seemed to be piqued. Fabian continued the conversation with a question. "What is his registration number?" Bluno answered immediately without a second thought. "He is number 25. Fabian gave a slight nod, saying thoughtfully, "I see. It turns out that even among the branch family, there are those who accumulate strength to climb to the high ranks. Number 25 is certainly outstanding, but it seems he still hasn't quite met my expectations yet. However, since the head instructor said so himself, there must be a good reason for it." Saying that, Fabian murmured the name of number 25, Leonard Cadenas. Bluno continued, adding that right after that, he had suddenly started shining a few days ago, defeating every apprentice who crossed his path. In just a short period, he climbed straight from rank 381 to the 25th position. The assistant by his side looked skeptical and quickly interrupted. "You must be joking, sir." Bluno jerked his chin toward the screen, reminding him, "Just look at the monitor. Right now is the exact moment he faces off against number 1. At this time, Leonard was confronting William face to face. He spoke with pure arrogance. "Number 25. You've got some nerve, daring to come all the way here on your own. Did you come to surrender? Sorry, but I'm not in the mood to go easy on you right now. Hearing that, Leonard didn't show any fear or hesitation, replying nonchalantly, that's perfect then. In that case, there's no reason for me to hold back either. Under that provocation, William's eyes widened to their limits in sheer shock. William gripped his sword tightly, stepping forward with bursting murderous intent as he declared, a piece of trash like you dares. Draw your sword, I'll teach you a lesson. Leonard sized him up, forming his own assessment. I get it, his title of #1 isn't just for show. The pressure radiating from him is on a completely different level compared to the others. He regained his confident smirk, full of anticipation. Come on, let's see it. Leonard pointed the tip of his sword at William, speaking up, bring it on, I'm the one who's going to teach you a lesson. He told himself that he wanted to see just how far he could go with his current strength. With those words, William decisively leaped into the air, launching a downward strike from above. Leonard remained strangely calm, only silently raising his eyes to track the figure rushing down at an incredible speed. William suddenly roared, putting everything into swinging his sword down. I'll crush you along with that sword of yours. Meanwhile, Leonard didn't display a single trace of emotion. He just stood there staring at his opponent, as if all of William's murderous intent couldn't sway his composure at all. Next, Leonard used both hands to raise his sword high, blocking the earth-shattering strike from midair, creating a powerful shockwave that rippled through the surroundings. In this situation, William was caught off guard for a moment. The two blades clashed head-on in an instant, and then Leonard effortlessly flicked his wrist, blasting him backward. William dropped his stance, struggling with everything he had to stabilize his body as he was pushed back. Leonard looked at him coldly, speaking up, my sword isn't going to break easily in the hands of an apprentice knight like you. With that, he thrust his sword forward, his lips curling into a confident smirk. William wasn't done yet. He tore through the air, launching a barrage of consecutive attacks. However, every single strike was dodged by Leonard at the very last second. Witnessing this performance, Bradley praised him with excitement. That's a pretty rare sword style. It doesn't look like the orthodox swordsmanship of the House of Cadinas. Even so, I'm genuinely surprised. There isn't a single wasted movement. He's brushing off every attack with minimal effort. And he hasn't even thrown a real counterattack yet. After fighting for a while, Leonard calmly touched down. On the opposite side, William screamed in fury, you absolute insect. Are you only good at running away? With that, he swung his sword violently, unleashing a terrifying force that blew his body backward. Amidst the chaotic air, Leonard firmly held his defensive stance from beginning to end. His feet dragged heavily against the ground to break his momentum and stabilize his balance. Immediately after, the air seemed to freeze as both Leonard and William simultaneously unleashed their latent energy. William, along with his surging power, charged forward fiercely like a raging storm. In contrast, Leonard maintained an uncanny calm. He stood there silently, ready to receive the rolling waves of energy that threatened to swallow everything. Moments later, Leonard calmly stepped down right in front of William. He brushed off the dust clinging to his pants, taking leisurely strides forward before softly making a comment, the power you're putting out is quite impressive. Opposite that serene attitude, William couldn't keep his cool. He swung his sword frantically, unleashing an unrelenting onslaught of attacks. Leonard subtly tilted his body to dodge the razor-sharp blade by a hair's breadth, while his opponent's furious voice rang in his ears. A guy who only knows how to run around dares to talk so big. Fight me seriously. Leonard didn't say much, he just lightly leaped to the side to create some distance. Leonard's eyes locked onto William as he thought, his strength is one thing, but his judgment isn't half bad either. Observing his opponent falling into a state of frenzy, he calmly concluded, but the one thing he's still missing is the instinct and experience forged on the thin line between life and death. No matter how outstanding of an apprentice you are, this is your absolute limit. William's entire body froze instantly right after that. What? Following the unexpected strike, he lost his balance and flew backward, barely managing to pull himself together. The crowd watching from the outside was completely blown away by this sight. No way, that guy is fighting head-on equal terms with #1. Is he really number 25? It feels like he has turned into a completely different person. Leonard's pupils flashed brightly like streaks of lightning. He agilely touched down and burst into high-speed movement. William gritted his teeth in sheer frustration. Damn it, I lost track of him. The moment he realized Leonard had closed the distance right under his feet, William froze slightly. When did you get there? William's jaw dropped in pure shock as he cried out, unbelievable, how can someone like you? Without wasting any words, Leonard subtly curled the corner of his mouth and declared, you lose, #1. With that, he showed no mercy, slashing a massive wave of energy straight at William. He took a direct hit, his eyes rolling back in sheer agony as blood welled up from his throat and spilled out. This should have been impossible for the old Leonard, but all of his memories had now flooded back. The fragments of memories from the past life of Leonard Cadinas, the man who was once hailed as the greatest sword emperor in the world. Ren, the man who knew nothing in his life but the sword. With just a single slash, he could easily cleave the sky in two, reaching a realm capable of shattering majestic mountains and proudly claiming the title of Sword Emperor. However, that much still didn't satisfy him. Ultimately, he decided to challenge the heavenly demon, the one considered the strongest of the era. That life-and-death battle dragged on relentlessly for days on end. Its sheer brutality far surpassed human limitations. It was said that the shockwaves from that confrontation completely altered the map of the region. And in the end, amid the desolation and the crimson glow of the blood moon, two figures stood silently facing each other. Leonard, his body covered in wounds, panted heavily as he questioned, "I don't understand, my swordsmanship should have reached absolute perfection, right? Why?" Confused, he threw a barrage of questions at the heavenly demon. "Why couldn't my sword even touch your body?" The man just smirked and replied, "That's because of the most fundamental thing. You have never truly understood the essence of the sword. To dare stake your life on a challenge and fight to this extent, you've done well. However, the flaw of overlooking the basics ultimately became the fatal weakness that brought your defeat." Leonard gripped his sword tightly, his voice straining. "Me, lacking the basics? What a ridiculous and cliché insult." The heavenly demon suddenly cut him off. "It's meaningless. For a stray dog like you to fight me to this extent is impressive enough. When you fall, the legend of the name Ren will end in miserable defeat. I grant you my final respect. Rest in peace, O bearer of the title once revered by the world as the Sword Emperor." In the end, Leonard let go, lying sprawled on the ground sighing, never expecting things to end so easily like this. "If only I could do it all over again. Would my sword be able to reach you then?" And just like that, the legend of the Sword Emperor Ren came to an end in absolute defeat. But at that exact moment, a new legend was about to begin in a place no one could have ever predicted. As night fell under a perfectly round moon, voices whispered in frantic discussion, "Is it real? Is he still breathing? Damn it, should we go call the instructor?" Waking from his unconscious state, Leonard startled awake. He looked around in utter confusion. What the hell is this? Leonard panted heavily, trying to stabilize his body. Was it that dream again? Beside him, someone shouted, "He's still completely alive. I thought you had kicked the buckets." He looked up at the group of people in front of him, but something felt incredibly off. Seeing that Leonard didn't react, the guy standing opposite him tossed out a line, "Whatever, as long as you're fine, that's all that matters." Saying that, he agilely threw a punch toward Leonard and yelled, "Let's finish what we started earlier. You really gave us a scare, you dog." Facing the situation, his entire body froze in surprise. Leonard stood up, effortlessly catching his opponent's arm without breaking a sweat. Having his attack blocked, the guy stared at Leonard in pure disbelief. The other two standing on the outside shared the exact same expression. He actually blocked the hit. The most surprised of all was Leonard himself. His eyes widened as he thought, "My body reacted automatically. What the hell is going on?" The opponent's wrist was squeezed so tightly by Leonard that it began to tremble. The guy wrenched his hand back, drawing his sword as he cursed, "You little brat." He built up momentum and rushed furiously toward Leonard. "Don't get cocky, you just got lucky once." With that, he delivered a powerful slash, but Leonard tilted his body and dodged it effortlessly. This time it was undeniable, and the guy cried out in sheer shock. He dodged it again. He looked down at his own sword-wielding arm, thinking that his body was completely moving on pure instinct. Next, Leonard spun around in a flawless, expert motion, decisively executing a finishing blow that left his opponent screaming in agony, eyes rolling back. After taking down his target, Leonard assessed the situation. "It feels as though something is guiding every single step of my movements." Over on this side, the gray-haired guy cried out in terror. "No way." The brown-haired guy chimed in, "This isn't luck, he's completely playing with us like we're prey." The gray-haired guy quickly denied it to comfort himself. "You've got to be kidding, how could someone who didn't even know how to fight back a moment ago be doing this?" The other guy nodded in agreement. "It's like he turned into a completely different person." Then his face went pale. "I don't get what the hell is happening anymore." The brown-haired guy got into a stance, not forgetting to warn his buddy to stay alert. "Hey, don't be such a coward. Isn't he just the piece of trash we beat half to death a second ago?" With those words, the brown-haired guy leaped into the air, swinging his sword down. "Let's crush him together." Leonard suddenly let out a smile. "So that's how it is. Now I understand. I've remembered everything." The moment the guy rushed him, he decisively unleashed a strike, blasting the guy's entire body backward. Next, Leonard took a running start and leaped into midair, delivering a decisive, powerful downward slash to end it all. Having dealt with the crowd, Leonard calmly sheathed his sword. For the longest time, he had been having those strange dreams. Dreams of a man standing under a crimson sky, fighting with a flowing robe and his white hair flying in the wind. Those dreams had tormented Leonard so much that he couldn't focus on his training. He used to hate them for a long time, but now his mind was completely clear. That man's life and death were flashing vividly before his eyes. Hard as it was to believe, there was only one conclusion. He confidently deduced, "I am the reincarnation of Ren, the Sword Emperor from another world." Leonard looked down at his hands and suddenly muttered, "Unbelievable. It turns out reincarnation is actually real. Looking up at the starry night sky, he wondered if his desperate final wish had actually come true. Suddenly, Leonard knitted his brows tightly, looking down at his arm and groaning from the soreness, even though he had only swung his sword a few times. This was the consequence of improper training for such a long time. Leonard's face turned serious, and he clenched his fists with newfound determination. With these memories and peak techniques, I will grow strong without any limits. Whoever granted Leonard this chance, or even if it was just a fluke, it didn't matter anymore. The Ren of his past life failed to achieve his ultimate goal, but the current Leonard would definitely make it a reality. He would become the strongest Sword Emperor, surpassing even his past life. The scene shifted to the inside of the Kadina's family training grounds, where quiet discussions echoed through the still air. Those three mentioned earlier are all injured, so they'll be completely useless in the upcoming field training. The trainees were gathering in a corner to figure out a solution. The black-haired guy smirked and offered his input. Our combat power will drop a bit, but it shouldn't be a big deal. It won't ruin the plan. This field training will be a piece of cake. Suddenly, someone cut him off, causing him to turn his head in attention. The other person continued sharing. Word is the guy who took down all three of them was completely on his own. It was number 381. I heard it was over in the blink of an eye. What were the ranks of the three who got beaten? Numbers 329, 257, and 133. He pushed back with a hint of anxiety. That's higher than I thought. Did number 381 really single-handedly wipe them out? If a guy like that joins another faction, the current balance of power will. Before he could even finish his sentence, the sight right in front of him froze him in his tracks. William pointed his sword at him with pure murderous intent and warned, "Watch your mouth. You think I'd be shaken by a piece of trash like that? Number 381 right. Get a few guys to bring him to me, and I'll see for myself if he's actually a card worth playing." In Leonard's mind, the heavenly demon's words echoed once more. I will consider this a parting gift to send you to the afterlife. The reason you couldn't reach a higher realm is that you started training your internal energy too late. In the 5 elements, foundation and balance are everything. If you had built that foundation since you were a kid, maybe the outcome would have been different. Leonard realized the root of the problem, his eyes turning deeper and more resolute than ever before. As he channeled his energy, he inwardly reaffirmed, right, by the time I started training my internal energy in my past life, my prime had already passed. But if I start building a solid foundation at this age? Instantly, a surge of brilliant green energy began to swirl violently around his body like a powerful sphere of light. Leonard made a decision for his next move. First, I need to forge a body that can absorb mana. He sat quietly at the center of an ancient magic circle, his entire body enveloped by a surging blue-green spiritual aura that cleansed and reconstructed every single blood vessel. After a while, the energy stabilized, and Leonard looked down at his hands. It's a success. He clenched his fist. Even though he was the world's strongest in his past life, at this age, he could still feel a severe lack of internal energy. Leonard directed his gaze toward the crest hanging on the wall, wondering, what exactly is this Kadina's bloodline anyway? Over at the cafeteria, the trainees were lining up to get food. Leonard ate heartily, silently critiquing, this food actually suits my taste pretty well. I need proper nutrition during my growth phase, so I can't afford to miss a single meal. While deep in thought, someone called out, snapping Leonard back to reality. Hey, number 381. I heard about the fight yesterday. I didn't know you had such a short fuse. You usually eat like a bird, so why are you eating like a horse today? You completely cleared your plate. Hearing the voice, he turned and asked, you're number 8, right? The boy immediately shook his head in denial. Nope, I'm number 7 now. He tossed his head back proudly. I just knocked out the old number 7 the other day. Leonard nonchalantly wiped his mouth, silently figuring out the rule of this place, a system where winning a challenge means stealing a higher rank. As if remembering something, he asked, anyway, did you need something from me? The boy shared cheerfully, why so cold? I actually came here to bring you some good news. Haven't you noticed how tense the atmosphere has been lately? The high rankers are starting to expand their territories. You already know numbers 1, 2, and 4 are. Leonard calmly slid his chair back and stood up. He carried his food tray toward the kitchen area while replying, I know. The golden eyes and diamond hearts, the direct descendants of the Kadina's family, right? Seeing the crowd behind them paying attention, number 7 whispered a warning, keep it down before someone hears you. Watch your mouth. Leonard didn't beat around the bush and spoke up seriously. Let's just get straight to the point. The boy held his head in exasperation and groaned, man, are you stupid or just crazy? You suddenly act like a totally different person. Sweat began to trickle down his face. Seeing Leonard about to leave, the self-proclaimed number 7 gathered his courage and blurted out, look, there's definitely a reason they're expanding their power. It means if we don't team up, we won't survive. Leonard stopped in his tracks and replied, so what do you want me to do? The boy stepped closer and gave his serious take. Out of 100 people, more than half have already surrendered and joined their sides. but there's no rule saying the branch families can't form their own gang. Right now, the plan is for me to join hands with high-ranking guys like number 3 and number 9. If you pitch in and help. Leonard shook his head and flatly rejected him. I refuse. I have no intention of joining any factions. Though your information was useful, so consider this my favor to you. Witnessing Leonard's reaction, number 7 was completely baffled. He muttered, did this guy hit his head or something? This is definitely not the number 381 I used to know. Under the sunset, the brilliant golden crest with a deep red gem right in the center shone brightly against the black banner, exuding the majesty and nobility of a prestigious family. Leonard maintained a relaxed demeanor, unhurriedly packing down the long corridor walkway. Suddenly, he stopped, turned his head slightly backward, and asked with total indifference, do you need something from me? The person on the other side stepped closer, using a highly provocative tone. Of course I do. Was the food good? Number 381. Personally, I have a mountain of things to say to you. He pointed his sharp sword at Leonard, reminding him, the big boss, number 1, wants to see you. Yesterday's commotion will be overlooked as an exception. Since you rejected number 7's invitation, the boss seems pretty impressed with you. Hearing this, a thought flashed through Leonard's mind. So everything here leaks right back to number 1? They sure love playing organized house for a bunch of kids. He lifted his feet and continued walking forward. Before walking away, Leonard threw back one last line. I don't care, get lost. The blonde guy couldn't take it anymore and lunged forward to attack. What did you just say? A bottom-tier piece of trash dares to talk back. The other guy did the same, shouting at the top of his lungs, I'll make you regret those words. From beginning to end, Leonard stood his ground, as if the situation before him wasn't enough to shake his resolute mind. The moment the opponent swung his sword, Leonard agilely leaned aside to dodge the strike. While thinking, he closed that distance with just a single kick. For a body at this age to reach this level is truly extraordinary. He clenched his fists and began channeling his power, causing the energy inside his body to surge fiercely. Right after that moment of accumulation, Leonard decisively threw a powerful punch, aiming straight at his opponent's face with unstoppable speed. The guy broke into a cold sweat, gritting his teeth in surprise, barehanded. What the hell is wrong with this guy? Afterward, the brown-haired guy got distracted by a wooden sword flying past. Taking advantage of his dropped guard, Leonard punched him hard in the stomach, leaving the opponent groaning in pain. That strike caused the ID badge pinned to his chest to fly off. He tracked it with his eyes and assessed, even if he isn't high-ranking, number 157's skill is actually impressive. Just as I thought, this Kadina's bloodline definitely hides some kind of secret. Having dealt with the brown-haired guy, Leonard glanced over at the remaining one. Looks like you realized you don't stand a chance. Want to keep going? The other guy gripped his hilt tightly, gritting his teeth as he hissed, shut up, I'm way stronger than you. So don't get cocky and talk down to me, bring it on. After spotting the guy's ID number, he dashed forward like the wind. I see. Before anyone knew it, Leonard had already closed in right behind his back, swinging his fist as he declared, have it your way then. In the quiet space, a sharp metallic clash rang out, cold and crisp like a bell, sealing the final outcome of the match. The ID badge pinned to the chest was suddenly blasted straight into the air by the raw force of the impact. Up above, a mysterious figure witnessed the entire event. He was completely playing his opponents like a joke. Foguro smirked with excitement. Has he been hiding his true strength all this time? I still can't wrap my head around it. For an informant, his background was just way too clear. With that said, Foguro suddenly froze. Did we just make eye contact? Can he really tell I'm watching him from this far away? Whatever, it looks like there's going to be a spectacular overthrow this time. I just hope we don't get the same old cliché developments like last time. I have high expectations for you, number 98. Currently, Leonard Cadenas had climbed up to rank 98. In the hallway, a crowd of people running in a hurry didn't forget to urge each other on. Hurry up, I think number 98 is heading toward the training ground. One guy ran so fast he bumped straight into Burita coming from the opposite direction, frantically explaining, my bad, the boss number 1 ordered me to bring number 98 back no matter what, I'm in a huge rush. Burita stopped in her tracks, asking in a cold tone, number 1 told you to capture number 98. Rumor has it there's a rebel around lately, looks like it's actually true. At the training ground, the atmosphere was incredibly lively right now. Burita scanned the area and remarked, so number 1's lackeys just lost, aren't those guys supposed to be top-tier experts? She had only taken a few steps when a figure got sent flying right past her, catching her slightly off guard. Right before Burita's eyes, Leonard was standing all by himself against William's men. Shut up and join our team if you know what's good for you, kid. He composed himself, frowning in annoyance as he reiterated, I said I refuse. That number 1 guy might be strong, but does he have a screw loose? How many times do I have to repeat myself? With that, Leonard unleashed another move, taking down the guy in front of him. Taking advantage of his dropped guard, he quick-wittedly reached out and snatched the badge off his chest. With everything settled, Leonard coldly tossed out a line, I'll be taking your rank. The guy could only grit his teeth and swear in utter helplessness. Having witnessed the entire performance, Burita finally strolled over to him. She smiled, speaking up cheerfully. "Congratulations, you've climbed up to rank 25 now," Leonard asked back in surprise. "You know me?" Burita regained her cold composure, her sharp gaze cutting right through him. "No, but I can see right through you. From that strange body of yours to the energy flow inside. And even that number 25 you're holding in your hand." Hearing that, Leonard suddenly stepped close and muttered, "Clairvoyance, quite an interesting ability." He placed a hand on his chin, pondering. To see internal energy meant she must have reached at least the mind's eye realm. At this age, the mind's eye allows one to see through the true self and intentions of an opponent, making it an incredibly lethal weapon when facing someone stronger. Truly a formidable ability, befitting the second ranker. As if remembering something, Burita questioned, "Hey, why do you hate teaming up so much? I don't think you can pass tomorrow's training session on your own." While the two were discussing, William walked over and interrupted. "Hey, that's enough. Are you stupid? Are you planning to leak all our info to him?" He mercilessly stomped straight onto the arm of the lackey lying on the ground. William gripped his sword tightly, releasing a cold line dripping with murderous intent. "I carried my own ass all the way here just to deal with this. What a bunch of useless trash, can't even handle a simple task." Listening to what he said, Leonard finally realized, so this is the famous number one. His aura is definitely no joke. He also walked toward him step by step, shooting back coldly. "I was also curious to see what kind of person you are." Leonard stopped, his murderous intent flaring up powerfully. "Finally met you, number one. I still have some fight left in me, wanna go around?" Seeing that provocative reaction, William barked in anger. "Who the hell do you think you're talking to?" Witnessing this scene, Burita couldn't help but crack up, bursting into laughter. She wiped a tear from the corner of her eye and chimed in, "You're hilarious. It's the first time I've ever seen anyone talk to number one in that tone. Looks like everyone's here. It seems number 25 doesn't want to follow anyone. Training starts tomorrow anyway, so." William turned around to leave, but before disappearing from sight, he coldly dropped a warning. "Don't regret pissing me off, number 25. Leonard nonchalantly replied without a second thought, "Be my guest." Then he narrowed his eyes slightly, thinking to himself that this information was supposed to be known only by the direct lineage. A training session where students must actively recruit allies. So tomorrow is going to be a cooperative drill. At a clearing deep in the forest, Bluno asked the person opposite him out of curiosity, "Are all the trainees gathered yet?" The assistant instructor raised his hand respectfully and reported, "Reporting, sir, everyone is present." However, during the team formation phase, a rather strange student showed up. He calmly requested, "Give me the details." The assistant composed himself and unhurriedly recounted, "Yes, sir, he's participating in the training entirely alone without joining any group." Bluno was slightly surprised. "Alone? Did you guys clearly explain the scope of the drill?" The assistant instructor nodded in confirmation. "Yes, sir. It's a field excursion in the Great Cadina's forest. During the exercise, they must secure their own shelter, forage for food, and hunt, being completely self-sufficient. We also announced that there is no limit on the number of members per team." Just as expected, the other trainees had already formed factions under the 4 top rankers. The largest group being Team A, led by number 1. Next was Team B, led by number 2, which was the second largest in scale. Team C consisted of trainees who didn't possess the direct bloodline. Team D, led by number 4, focused mainly on tactics. And Team E, led by number 483, gathered those who weren't accepted by any group. The assistant instructor paused for a brief moment. As he looked over Leonard's resume, he blurted out, "Number 25, Leonard Cadinez, forms Team F all by himself." Right now, Leonard was scanning his eyes around to evaluate the situation. This training area is massive. To utilize this terrain, I need to secure a base of operations early on. Number 25, out of nowhere, Bluno suddenly materialized. He walked up to him and asked, "Is that really all the gear you have? It looks like you only brought a little water and some crackers to get by. It might be fine for now, but are you sure you can hold out?" Leonard glanced over and nonchalantly replied, "Yes, it's not a problem. Isn't the goal of this training session survival and self-sufficiency anyway?" Saying that, he thought to himself that in reality, this was just a war to scramble for tokens. In the quiet space, the sound of footsteps suddenly echoed, drawing closer and closer. Dylan spoke up, interrupting the two of you. "Can I speak with number 25 alone for a moment, Instructor Bluno? No matter what, heading into the forest all by yourself is highly dangerous in many aspects. If you're willing, number 25, would you like to join our Team D?" Leonard replied with pure disdain, "Get lost and leave me alone, it's none of your business." He glanced at the slain beast behind him and formed an assessment. What a crafty bastard, pretending to care with his mouth, but in reality, he just plans to use me and throw me away the moment danger hits. Seeing that Leonard remained unfazed, Dylan tried to persuade him. "Honestly, I really don't get what you're thinking. The other teams have at least a few dozen people, and Team A even has over 100 members. I think this is a pretty solid offer for you." He stood his ground, firing back bluntly, "You don't need to understand, and I'm under no obligation to explain. Simply put, I'm just not interested in your group picnic. Witnessing this scene, Dylan finally had his answer. Now I understand why number 1 hates you so much. It really is a case of birds of a feather hatting each other. That arrogant attitude of yours, you're going to regret it. Since you won't listen, I'll just have to use force to convince you. Consider this my way of gaining the upper hand in the training session, so no hard feelings. As he spoke, he built up high speed and rushed straight toward Leonard. Even though a smile played on his lips, his heart carried a subtle, lethal threat. Dylan repeated once more, "Join my team." With those words, he decisively swung his sword hard right at his position. The moment he realized his opponent had managed to dodge the attack in time, Dylan cried out in disbelief, "What? He dodged my strike." Over on this side, Leonard had already shifted into his stance, ready to attack. In a split second, he leaped into midair and tossed out a cold remark, "What strange footwork." Right after that, Leonard decisively swung his hand, delivering a painfully hard strike to the back of Dylan's neck. Watching him collapse before his eyes, he thought to himself, even when he swung his sword, I didn't feel a single shred of murderous intent or hostility from him. Is it possible that at this age, he has already reached the realm of a master assassin? Thud, Dylan's body crashed down, creating a loud echo in the deserted space. Immediately after, a hand was quietly placed on his shoulder. Bluno praised him in a deep voice, "Good reflexes, number 25. However, since this isn't an official match, the rank advancement won't be recognized. Oh well, as the smallest group, I give you permission to head out." Leonard nodded and replied, "Understood, instructor." Sizing him up, he thought to himself, that head instructor, I can't feel his presence at all. He really is incredibly strong. Even in my past life, I would have had a tough time facing off against people like this. The top swordsmanship clan on the continent truly lives up to its reputation. At such a young age, they already display such outstanding talent. With so many geniuses appearing at the exact same time like this, the Kadina's bloodline definitely hides some kind of secret. Leonard accelerated, sprinting forward at a terrifying speed. He seriously told himself, for now, just focus on the training session. The first order of business is to find a highly strategic shelter. Amidst the thick clouds of swirling dust, a voice rang out, "Are you number 25? At this moment, the monitoring systems began to materialize in front of Bluno. He gave a serious reminder, "Report the situation immediately after the start." The assistant instructor presented respectfully, "Yes, sir." This time, the teams clashed unusually early. Team A, under the command of number 1, launched an attack on Team C the moment they entered the forest. Without even attempting to search for a base, Team C was caught completely off guard and suffered absolute defeat. Heavy, rapid footsteps slammed hard against the parched ground. As the assistant instructor's monotonous voice continued to detail the unfolding battle, except for number 3 who luckily managed to dodge in time, everyone else has been entirely wiped out. Hearing this, he nodded with pure excitement. Interesting. I thought he was a sharp one, but I didn't expect him to choose such a swift ambush tactic. The assistant instructor added, "Yes, it's quite understandable given that their numbers are completely overwhelming." Saying that, Bluno placed his hand on his chin, lost in thought. However, there's no way he's relying solely on numbers. Team A has too many people, so they would face severe food shortages if the battle dragged on. He utilized his numbers to strike preemptively right when the other groups hadn't even stabilized their formations yet. Instead of searching for shelter as usual, William opted for a surprise attack. That proves he's not just powerful, but also possesses a highly tactical mind. Afterward, Bluno shifted focus and continued. "All right, now report on the status of Team B and Team D." The assistant instructor looked at the system and recounted calmly. After witnessing Team C's downfall, Team B and Team D decided to form an alliance. Their common goal is to defeat the strongest one, number 1. He seemed highly satisfied with this outcome. A slight smirk curled Bluno's lips, a smart move. The reactions of this batch of apprentices are much faster than the previous class. They look quite promising. "And the remaining groups are under your supervision, correct? Give me your report, Instructor Colin." Having remained silent until now, her name was finally called. Colin nodded and responded clearly, "Yes, Instructor Bluno. Team E still hasn't made any significant progress after electing their captain, but as for number 25 of Team F, I honestly don't even know where to begin explaining." A memory suddenly flashed back. While she was standing at a distance observing, Leonard abruptly called out Instructor Colin's name. Colin froze slightly in surprise. She thought, did he just call my name? My stealth technique is top tier among the instructors. Leonard didn't beat around the bush, glancing toward her as he asked, "I have a question." Hearing those words, Colin was absolutely certain of her suspicion. That boy had detected her presence a long time ago. Ultimately, she leaped down from the tree onto the ground. Colin crossed her arms and replied, "Fine, what do you want to ask, number 25? Leonard directed his gaze toward a certain direction and shared, as you can see. It seems this cave already has an owner, but I want to use this place to rest for the night. Is this a beast raised by the House of Cadenas? I'm afraid that if I accidentally injure or kill it, it might cause some trouble. Colin observed the Diagoth, silently assessing that yes, it was a wolf domesticated by the House of Cadenas and was relatively safe. But an ordinary apprentice could never take it down. If anything happens, I'll step in to save him just to see if he's talking big. Thinking one thing but replying with another, she told him, it's fine, this is also part of the challenge. If you can take it down, feel free to use the cave as a sleeping spot or storage space as you wish. That is, on the condition that you can actually defeat it. The moment it caught sight of the two figures, the Diagoth began to growl with pure rage. It let out a roar and lunged at lightning speed toward Leonard's position. Sensing the imminent danger, he gripped his sword tightly and fell into a ready stance. For a pet, your skills are quite impressive. Fine, I'll go a bit easy on you. Leonard decisively delivered a powerful slash at the Diagoth, confidently declaring, because I can't find a single spot to get a better night's sleep than right here. Sorry about that. Taking a direct hit, it gritted its teeth in agonizing pain. The Diagoth dragged its paws violently against the ground, barely managing to keep its footing. Its pupils flashed with furious intensity. The Diagoth unleashed an earth-shattering roar, and immediately after, its primal strength erupted, dispersing a powerful wave of green energy throughout the space. From beginning to end, Leonard calmly observed and assessed. Murderous intent. Has it lost control? If I hold back and end up getting hurt, the instructor will be in trouble too. Leonard gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, accelerating toward the Diagoth. This is probably going to hurt a bit. He agilely drove the blade upward, striking right beneath its chin. Next, Leonard twisted his body, executing a flawless flip through the air. As he confidently declared, I'm not about to let myself become your dinner so easily. With those words, Leonard brought it all to an end with a devastatingly powerful knee strike. Witnessing the spectacle that had just unfolded, Colin stood frozen in utter shock. He took it down in a flash. I didn't even need to step in to save him. Is this really the strength of an apprentice? After fighting for a while, the air gradually settled back into its original stillness. In stark contrast to its ferocious demeanor earlier, the Diagoth now acted like a completely docile pet, obeying his every instruction. Wait, Leonard pointed his finger and commanded, sit. It immediately plopped down onto the ground with an innocent look. He continued to request, give me your paw. The Diagoth offered no resistance, extending its claws right in front of Leonard. He praised softly, good boy. While petting it, he turned to Colin and proposed, Instructor Colin, since it seems very attached to me, can I take it along during this training session? She didn't answer right away, thinking to herself, that power, that hesitation-free decisiveness. If someone like him wins over a Diagoth, Colin replied guardedly, that's a bit hard to permit. However, taming it certainly proves your capability. I will agree, but on one condition. You are strictly forbidden from letting it participate in battles. Using it for transportation or scouting, however, is allowed. Leonard adjusted his collar and replied, that was my plan from the very beginning. Before departing, Colin left him with a final warning, then keep a close eye on it, don't let it harm the other apprentices. With everything settled, his eyes narrowed slightly as he murmured, that technique seems to be quite useful. Now shall we begin the real training session? Go find some food. After moving for a while, Leonard halted his steps and made a decision. A fork in the road, let's split into two groups. If you find anything interesting, just bring it back. It doesn't necessarily have to be food. With that, Leonard and the Diagoth swiftly parted ways down two separate paths. Over on this side, a dark, gloomy voice rang out, striking terror into number 438. Is it all finished? He stumbled backward, muttering, a monster. William shoved both hands into his pockets, surveying the surrounding scene as he spat out in utter disdain. Trash like this actually carries the Cadenas bloodline. They are completely beyond saving. But my token holder is entirely full anyway. You're lucky, the next time we cross paths, I'll eliminate you instantly. Number 438 trembled with pure rage. He cursed fiercely in his mind, damn it. I can't believe our entire team joined forces and we still couldn't beat him alone. I knew from the start we didn't stand a chance, but at this rate we're just going to be prey for everyone else. I don't want this. I was forced to be the captain. What the hell am I supposed to do now? Number 438's gaze locked onto the space behind him. As his team members asked hesitantly, Captain, what should we do now? One guy in the group spoke up. We were lucky to be spared this time, but if another team attacks, we're completely finished. Is this really how it ends for us? Number 438 tried to pull himself together and reassure everyone. Come on, everyone, pull yourselves together and let's go find something to eat. If we know how to lay low and bide our time, maybe we still have a shot. Just as the words left his mouth, a teammate's face went dead pale. What is that? Number 438 followed his comrade's line of sight, wondering why everyone suddenly wore such horrified expressions. Right before their eyes, without them even realizing it, a massive bear had materialized. He thought anxiously, we're really about to become wild beast food. Number 438 uttered helplessly, dying like this is totally unacceptable. Suddenly, a series of rapid footsteps thundered through the air. Leonard, bursting with immense momentum, closed the distance right behind the monster. Number 438 screamed a terrified warning. The bear seemed to have sensed the danger as well, turning its gaze backward in pure fury. Before it even had a chance to strike, Leonard decisively unleashed a finishing blow. Under the crushing pressure radiating from him, number 438 raised his hands to steady his trembling body. He suddenly cried out in shock, "You are." Standing right before number 438's eyes was the majestic figure of Leonard, standing triumphantly atop the newly defeated monster. He blurted out, "Number 25. Looking at Leonard's completely calm demeanor, number 438 cursed bitterly in his mind, "You cold-blooded bastard. What else are you planning to steal from us?" He stared at the creature collapsed on the ground, his heart sinking with immense regret because their food supply for the next few days was completely gone. Dejected, number 438 didn't even notice Leonard approaching, continuing to curse silently, "You really are a monster devoid of human nature." Leonard walked over and checked on them. "Are you guys all right?" Number 438 stood blinking in utter confusion at his show of concern. Leonard slowly repeated, "I'm asking if you guys are hurt." Number 438 stammered in reply, "I'm not injured." Hearing this, Leonard turned around and decisively walked away. "That's good then." Dumbfounded by this action, number 438 yelled, "Wait up. Are you really not going to steal our tokens?" Leonard turned back and nonchalantly replied, "I only dropped by because I saw a dangerous situation." His words caught everyone completely off guard. "My goal isn't winning or losing, it's to forge myself. I hunt my own food and I couldn't care less about tokens." Leonard stated his direction bluntly. "Besides, if I want to win, I'll choose a more worthy opponent." Number 438 asked, "I see. It's true that you climbed to rank 25 in just a short time, right?" He uttered with absolute seriousness, "I owe you one this time." That display from him caught Leonard completely by surprise. "Thanks to you, I wasn't eliminated early." Leonard tried to explain, "That's not what I meant." But then their attention was instantly grabbed by something else. What the hell is that? A wolf with razor-sharp eyes was baring its fangs and claws right at them. Right now, it was holding a girl tightly in its mouth. Everyone gasped in terror. "A wolf." Leonard remained calm and barked an order, "Sit." The initially terrifying, massive wolf meekly sat down, much to everyone's utter astonishment. It released the girl from its mouth. They immediately recognized who it was, number 3. Looking at her defeated state, number 438 was shocked. No way. The legendary number 3 was beaten this badly. Leonard ignored the gossip, focusing entirely on number 3's condition. "These wounds are severe. For a steel warrior like her to get thrashed like this, what kind of monster did it? Or was it number 1 or number 2? The wolf put number 3 back in its mouth to protect her, while Leonard turned to question number 438. "You really don't want to get disqualified, do you?" Number 438 answered clearly, "Yeah, so what? You think that's pathetic?" Leonard pointed toward the bear he had just taken down and offered, "Then I'll give you this instead of taking your badge. This should be enough food for your guys." He instantly beamed with joy. "Seriously? Awesome." Leonard's parting words left them dazed for a moment. "All right, transaction complete. Also, don't get too obsessed with numbers." Number 438 watched his retreating figure and sighed in admiration. Number 25. "Maybe he really is a good guy. I think I misunderstood him." After receiving treatment, number 3 woke up with a look of utter confusion at her surroundings. She wondered, "Where am I?" She looked at her bandaged arm and asked herself, "Am I being treated? By whom?" Nearby, Leonard's voice rang out, "You're awake." Number 3 quickly sprang into action without a second thought. She dashed toward Leonard to attack, but he easily blocked her strike. Leonard only noticed the injury on her leg and exclaimed, "Your leg seems fine now, so don't waste your energy. Just rest up." Number 3 still demanded fiercely, "Give me back my badge." Leonard shifted his gaze behind her. Number 3 followed his eyes and realized her badge was still fully intact over there. The atmosphere between the two suddenly became incredibly awkward. Number 3 stammered her thanks. I really appreciate you saving my life, but I can't give you my badge." Ignoring her, Leonard walked over to the campfire and nonchalantly replied, "I never planned on taking it anyway." He held out a juicy skewer of grilled meat, inviting her, "Sit down and eat." Number 3 gasped in surprise. "Really?" he said slowly. "Don't be shy, there's plenty left." Leonard thought to himself that he couldn't let a kid starve and he had to help her recover at all costs. Number 3 began to wolf down the skewer while listening intently to his question. "You're on Team C, right? What happened to cause those injuries? Did you run into a monster?" She recounted sourly, "No. Right after we finished setting up our base, Team A ambushed us and wiped everyone out." She recalled the event with deep self-reproach. "We didn't even have a chance to fight back. It was brutal. As the captain, I'm ashamed that I couldn't do anything." Leonard didn't deny the defeat. "You guys really didn't stand a chance of winning." He silently analyzed the battle. Fighting against overwhelming numbers was a completely different reality. You guys are still way too inexperienced. Even so, there's still a way to win. With the insight of a Sword Emperor, he realized William had used a preemptive strike and ambush tactics against young, battle-untried opponents. Leonard questioned her about her injury. Was your right arm broken by number 1? Number 3 explained, yes. Compared to number 2, number 1 is on a completely different level. It was inevitable for my team to lack the power. But then she burst out bitterly, I didn't even get to put up a proper fight. It's so frustrating. Looking at number 3's stubborn demeanor, Leonard smiled with amusement. Even when knowing the massive power gap, her fighting spirit hadn't faded in the slightest. He silently noted that she could actually become a true warrior. He made an assessment while eating. Anyway, the current situation is terrible. At this rate, it's only a matter of time before teams B and D collapse. Number 3 wondered if they had formed an alliance. Leonard slowly explained, the morale of a faction that has just tasted victory will skyrocket, which is even scarier than a numerical advantage. And even if an alliance is formed, small teams still can't surpass the total wins of a major squad. In this scenario, a tactical ambush is the optimal choice. But in his mind, he was certain William had already prepared for that. Leonard sighed. Seriously, is it really necessary to go this far against a bunch of kids? He gave instructions, target Team A's weakness. Number 3 asked in confusion what that weakness was. Leonard answered, concentrate all firepower on attacking number 1. Team A revolves entirely around him. Because he is the central pillar, their unity and decisions are incredibly fast. But the moment that pillar snaps, they'll instantly turn into a disorganized mob. Leonard guessed that she desperately wanted revenge, and since number 3 was easy to read, she didn't hesitate to shoot back. Of course I do. Leonard requested confidently, then trust me. She paused for a moment to think, then asked seriously, should I start calling you captain from now on? Meanwhile, William's army was on the move. William led the way while number 5 beside him cautiously reminded, don't be reckless, time is on our side. As long as we maintain this position, victory is definitely ours. William slowly replied, it looks like the results will be decided soon. Something caught his attention. William signaled and number 5 shouted the announcement, halt, prepare for battle. The entire group immediately got into position, ready to fight. William said aloud, hiding because you know your limits is a smart move, but since you see there's no hope of winning, why don't you just surrender? Stop hiding and show yourselves. Slowly, another group revealed themselves, catching William by surprise as they asked, did you notice us? Burita and Dylan looked down at the crowd from a high vantage point. This majestic lion has a sharper nose than I thought. Those words put William completely on guard. Burita and Dylan stepped forward with a mocking remark. Or does it actually act more like a dog's nose? William showed no fear, retorting sharply, those who stand at the peak can easily see through the hearts of lowlifes. Your cheap tricks aren't worth my time. He openly showed his disdain with sheer confidence. I didn't expect someone like you to dare stand before me. You are truly a disgrace to the Kadina's name. Burita got into an attacking stance. Do you always love acting all high and mighty in front of everyone? You don't look like a dog, you look more like a peacock flaunting its tail. William fiercely shot back, this is called majesty, you incompetent woman. Burita and Dylan dashed forward simultaneously at high speed, and William didn't hesitate to meet them head-on. With that, the clash broke out into a battle between commanders. Burita's troops also actively charged forward as she ordered. All forces charge, wipe out Team A. William's group was just as formidable, ready for the clash. Everyone, tighten the defense. Absolutely do not let them break through. Both sides plunged into a fierce, brutal skirmish. William's powerful counterstrike left Burita utterly shocked. More importantly, what the hell is this guy anyway? She quickly regained her composure to continue analyzing the fight. Not only is he fast, but every single attack is incredibly heavy. Even though I blocked it, my wrists are going numb, and even my eyes can't keep up with that movement. Burita gasped in frustration, what kind of freak is he? She drew William's attention and successfully created an opening for Dylan to strike. This monster is terrifying. Dylan's sneak attack was easily neutralized by him. William was highly annoyed by their performance. He grabbed Dylan's sword and crushed it with raw force. Did you two come all this way just to put on a circus show? William's overwhelming power caught him completely off guard. He lunged forward and drove his knee straight into Dylan's stomach. Seeing this, Burita quickly seized the moment. There's the opening. She made her choice based on her judgment. His back will definitely be hard to defend. I can see every single muscle movement clearly. A sudden thought flashed through her mind. Wait, an opening this massive is weird. Don't tell me. That thought caused her attack to slow down. Was he laying a trap for me from the very start? Burita quickly stopped her advance. William calmly lowered his sword, forcing her into a frustrated defensive position. He casually tossed out a compliment. You're at least a bit better than number 4, but you realized this far too late. In contrast to William's relaxed demeanor, Burita was struggling heavily to block his attacks. Even those eyes that could see through an opponent's movements weren't perfect, right? William used a gaze full of sheer contempt and openly mocked her. In my eyes, your movements are too sluggish. Nothing like that number 25 guy. He exerted more force, snapping her sword in half. Burita had completely lost to his overwhelming power after all that trash talking. Is this really all you've got? William flatly declared, accept your defeat, number 2. You don't stand a chance against me. He confidently assumed, I am the sole victor of this training session. Leonard's sudden appearance left both of them completely stunned. You're calling it a bit too early. Burita gasped at the sight. Leonard nonchalantly walked closer toward them, number 25. William immediately questioned him, What are you doing here? He tossed aside the opponent he had just knocked out and replied, nothing major. He spoke up without hesitation, I just came to return the favor for what you did to my team. William gasped in surprise, number 5. He scoffed in irritation, a team? Don't make me laugh. You weren't supposed to have any teammates to begin with. Leonard slowly explained, at first that was true. The commotion around them caught William's attention, as Leonard's group suddenly rushed out to attack. Now take a good look. William's team was easily taken down. These are the weaklings you've always looked down on. This is the rebellion of the people you deemed worthless. Number 438 held someone else's badge in his hand, his face beaming with absolute joy. Flashing back to a short while ago when number 438's group first received the bear, with this much food, we're safe. Everyone, thanks to this, we can survive. They cheered in joy, awesome, long live number 25. Number 3 spoke up, interrupting them, sorry to cut your joy short. But number 438 gasped in surprise, number 25 and number 3 too, what brings you two here so suddenly? He immediately clutched the food and blurted out anxiously, you're not planning to take this back, are you? Leonard made an offer. Why don't you guys form an alliance with us? He was highly hesitant about Leonard's proposal. What do you mean? Our team is very weak. Even if we join, we'll just drag you down. He reminded number 438, hey, did you forget what I said? Leonard stood before the crowd, firmly reasserting his point. I told you not to let those numbers tie you down. You are all warriors who have undergone Cadinas's official training. What does that have to do with anything? He tried to lecture them to help build their confidence, meaning that since they trained the same way, their growth rates weren't that different, and ranks were nothing more than mere labels. Number 438 heard this but remained extremely cautious. What the hell are you talking about? How could you and I be the same? Leonard emphasized, you also carry Cadina's blood in your veins. Your talent and potential are more than enough. He explained in greater detail, it's just that those who awaken unique traits are the minority. Other than that, your actual strength is pretty much on par with each other. Leonard used himself and number 3 as proof. Just look at me and number 3 here. Number 3 comes from a branch family, but she climbed up here purely through her own hard work. He kept trying to instill confidence in number 438. Same with me. I crawled my way up from rank 381 to rank 25 on my own. Haven't those numbers you value so much already proven that? Leonard continuously encouraged them to boost their confidence. There are only a few people ranked higher than you. You absolutely have the strength to surpass the rest. Hearing this made number 438's group even more upset. Don't play games with us. We carry these numbers because we can't win, and even among peers, we're still the absolute bottom. He shouted to cut them off. What you guys need isn't just raw power. Leonard tried to change their mindset. What you lack right now is courage and belief in yourselves. Have you ever actually pushed your own limits? Leonard spoke up clearly and loudly. Have you ever believed in yourselves even once? If you haven't, then I'll place my belief in you. His words finally seemed to strike a chord in their minds. You can win. Therefore, Class F officially extends this offer to Class E. Leonard reached his hand out and repeated his initial proposal. Why don't we take down that number 1 guy together? Number 3 stood on a high point, shouting commands, all forces charge. We can win because number 25 believes in us. Let's seize this victory. Armed with newfound confidence, everyone rushed forward. Let's go. William stood below, looking up as he spoke in a completely disparaging tone. Number 3, I can't believe you'd actually join hands with lowlifes. Have you no shame? She immediately shot back. What did you just say? Lowlifes? Number 3 recounted with sheer pride. Listen up carefully. I fought him once. He caught my kick barehanded like it was absolutely nothing. Leonard just let her brag as he listened. His technique is way more refined than yours. William felt his blood boil even more at their confidence. I don't cooperate with the weak. I simply follow someone stronger than myself. Besides, just because you're strong doesn't mean your team is strong too, right? Leonard pointed toward number 438 and remarked, look, my team is tearing your lackeys to shreds over there. On the other side, number 438 and everyone else were celebrating together. We won. Suddenly, a burst of laughter rang out, leaving Leonard deeply confused. Burita now offered to join. All right, I get it. I surrender, let me join Team F along with. Dylan, who was nearby, quickly followed suit. Me too, he declared, resolutely refusing to back down. I'd rather do this than lose to someone I can't stand. William found their actions utterly repulsive. Dylan, even you are turning against me. He shouted out loud, reprimanding the group of them. Do you all carry the Cadina's bloodline and yet have absolutely no self-respect? Leonard threw a provocation back at him. What are you talking about? Who here doesn't carry the Cadina's bloodline? Stop being stubborn and just accept your defeat already. William remained steadfast in his own ideals. Don't mess with me. He pointed the tip of his sword right at number 25, Leonard. He put forth a high-stakes proposal, gambling the victory or defeat of the entirety of Team A and Team F on the line. Fight me right here, right now. William was brimming with self-confidence. I will personally show you the gap in our strength, so don't you dare run. He didn't hesitate to fire back. That was my intention from the very beginning anyway. He drew his weapon, though those words are meant to be spoken by someone else to you, not the other way around. Leonard fell into a ready stance with complete confidence. Bring it on, I'm going to open your eyes. Bluno was also closely monitoring their battle from the outside. The duel between number 25 and William began. Colin considered this to be the true final match of the training session. Bluno eagerly anticipated the ultimate outcome of the battle. How exciting! Let's see if number 1 will win as everyone expects, or if this newcomer will completely turn the tables. Who knows, we might just witness the birth of a genius fully capable of becoming a captain. The two of them began to clash head-on in a duel, relentlessly attacking and defending, driving the pace of the match faster and into a state of intense tension. While defending, Leonard analyzed and assessed William's skills. His swordsmanship is incredibly solid and his destructive power is terrifying. Burita is genuinely impressive for enduring those strikes. Just bracing to block them would probably shatter someone's hands completely. He clearly tracked his every movement. Even so, Leonard easily predicted his attack patterns. He's still just an apprentice after all. His strikes are powerful, but his path and execution are far too predictable. In an instant, William's technique caught him off guard. He finally understood that this was how Burita had been taken down. A strike coming from an impossible angle that no one could have ever anticipated. Witnessing this, Bluno also blurted out, "That's quite a surprise." He wondered if number 25 had already seen completely through number 1's technique. To read it that quickly is truly remarkable. He pondered deeply on Leonard's talent. Unbelievable for someone without latent gifts to pull off something that even Burita was helpless against. Leonard evaluated his every blow. I realized it during our clash earlier. But he isn't just relying on pure physical strength to swing his sword. He deduced that William's special ability was a type of formless, invisible power. The two of them coated their blades with a type of energy, launching non-stop onslaughts against each other. Leonard observed every minor detail, a sword strike executing from an angle where normally no one could generate any force. He paid close attention to that robust physique and assessed, even an ordinary apprentice, no, even an experienced warrior would let their guard down, thinking it's impossible to strike from that angle. Leonard realized that at that exact moment, he used telekinesis to channel energy into his arm and sword, unleashing a strike of unimaginable destructive force. William delivered a powerful swing, radiating a bright blue light, but it was firmly blocked by Leonard's sword. It truly was a type of power that defied all conventional rules. Leonard silently praised him. This kid is pretty good. William also realized it. You bastard, have you already seen through my ability? The two swords clashed violently against each other once again. Facing off against Leonard, William asserted with absolute certainty, "And that's not all. You're still hiding your true skills, aren't you?" William shouted his interrogation. "Why wait until now to finally show it?" He replied calmly. "Let my sword give you your answer." Seeing that, he praised him, nodding that it truly was the demeanor of someone from the Duke's house. William smirked and blurted out, "Excellent." William's next attack left him completely astonished. Leonard instantly read the previous move, but at the same time acknowledged his capability. He's using telekinesis not just to boost damage, but even to project long-range sword kai. His position as number 1 is certainly not an empty title. William dragged his sword across the ground, speaking with pure arrogance. "Do you understand the meaning of this attack? Don't blame me, number 25. Leonard instantly pushed back against that arrogance. "You're getting ahead of yourself." He remained perfectly calm as he prepared to receive his fierce onslaught, wanting to see what he could actually pull off. A faint blue aura enveloped his entire body along with a raging, boiling energy. "Fine, I'll grant you your wish." Leonard calmly formulated his counter-strategy. With his current frail body, he couldn't unleash the immense power of his past life, nor was he permitted to draw unwanted attention by utilizing that external force. Leonard gripped his sword tightly, preparing to strike. Therefore, the only thing he could do right now was focus entirely on preparing to cut him down. Leonard was pushed back by William's overwhelming power, yet he effortlessly slipped past his strikes. Every blow he unleashed was incredibly potent, yet he evaded them all with such ease that he couldn't help but exclaim, Your feet are fast. William suddenly unleashed a surprise move, then try handling this. The previous strike instantly snapped a tree behind them in half. That blow carried immense force, yet Leonard's agile movements allowed him to escape effortlessly. Burita kept her eyes glued to the match and realized, I see. Dylan, who couldn't track it clearly, quickly asked what she meant. She watched and explained at the same time. William was using a type of ability to obscure vision, preventing others from tracking his strikes. Hearing this, Dylan grumbled in annoyance. What? That's playing dirty. Burita noticed that despite that, number 25 still managed to evade everything. Actually, I think number 25 is the real crafty one for constantly concealing his true strength. Hearing this, number 3 spoke up to defend him, pointing out that he couldn't even close the distance, so how could he be crafty? Dylan replied, is that so? He seriously reconsidered. No, the truth was actually quite the opposite. The subordinate standing next to Bluno noticed that number 25 was drawing closer and closer. At a glance, it looked like he was running frantically to escape number 1, but every single step was completely calculated. Bluno also understood his intention. He was playing a part to lure number 1 into a dead end without him even realizing it. He compared that image to a predator leisurely cornering its prey. William found himself increasingly at a disadvantage, losing his initial momentum as the distance between him and Leonard rapidly narrowed. Seeing him close the distance so suddenly, he demanded, when the hell did you get this close to me? Leonard nonchalantly asserted, you lose, number 1. He unleashed a massive slash, blowing everything away, including William. He was utterly dumbfounded, unable to believe the reality of his defeat. No way, me. He felt completely humiliated. I actually lost to a lowborn trash like you. Leonard's previous strike caused quite a massive commotion, sending tremors throughout the entire forest. William asked himself, did I really lose? He sat on the ground, staring at the tip of Leonard's sword pointing right at him. No, this isn't just a simple defeat. The tip of his sword came to a halt right in front of him. It's death. Leonard remained composed, showing absolutely no further signs of malice. William sat on the ground, breathing heavily in exhaustion before bursting into laughter. Everyone around stood blinking in utter shock as they witnessed his concession. I give up, number 25. The surroundings erupted in joy as Leonard succeeded. You won. Over on this side, Bluno also blurted out in utter amazement. What an entirely unexpected spectacle. William's words left him completely baffled. Thank you, number 25, or rather, the new number 1. Thanks to you, a massive weight has been lifted off my chest. Leonard looked at his melancholic expression and demanded clarification. What exactly do you mean by that? William recalled the hardships he had to endure, the intense pressure of his father's education, and the obsessive mindset that he absolutely had to be the absolute strongest. He remained bewildered by those words, while William looked as though he had finally unburdened himself of a massive load. It has all been completely blown away. He extended his hand out and stated clearly, it's nothing. William also acknowledged that it was a great match, the new number 1. He let out a sigh of relief upon hearing those words. Leonard took his hand, pulling him up to his feet. Well done, congratulations. The surrounding subordinates of Bluno were crying out in frantic disbelief. You've got to be kidding me. Number 1 actually lost. I can't believe my own eyes. They seem to have placed bets with each other. I'm ruined. My pockets are completely empty. I put so much faith in number 1. Bluno was immensely pleased with the outcome. The result was unexpected, but it yielded a massive harvest. He emphasized that the official outdoor training session concluded right here. Burita and Dylan didn't join the celebration, standing off to the side as they commented. Setting number 25 aside for a moment, I'm genuinely impressed with Team E. Yeah, I have to agree with that. I never expected him to coordinate with the weaker elements to completely bring down Team A. Everyone at this moment was cheering and chanting Leonard's name. Bluno kept his eyes locked on him. Number 25 had seen completely through the true purpose of this training session. It was an entirely unexpected yet highly satisfying result. He ordered Colin, wait until everyone calms down, then pack up your gear and get ready to head back. She obeyed, understood. He gave her detailed instructions for the task, adding, go ahead and contact the main family side while you're at it. Tell them it's time to hold the coming-of-age ceremony. Leonard gently stroked the Dioggoth and told it, I have to leave tomorrow, but I can't bring you along with me. Hearing that he was leaving, it displayed a deeply sorrowful expression, as if it utterly refused to part with him. Seeing that dejected face, Leonard looked down with pure affection. Are you really that sad because I'm leaving? Seeing the Dioggoth so heartbroken, he petted and comforted it. I feel the exact same way. Leonard gently touched its nose and whispered, I'm sorry for having to leave you behind here. But I promise you. He locked eyes with it and asserted decisively that he would get stronger and definitely come back to get it. Noticing the Dioggoth's instantly brightened face, he expressed softly, when that time comes, we'll play together again. Leonard turned to leave but still looked back one last time with immense lingering attachment. Make sure to train hard so you can keep up with my journey. Staring at the Dioggoth's majestic figure, a parting message welled up in his mind. The next time we meet, I'll give you a proper name." Before long, Leonard found himself in a carriage along with William and a few others. He froze in utter bewilderment when he saw everyone in the carriage fixing their gaze entirely on him. "What the hell are you all doing in my carriage? There's no rule forcing us to board according to rank." Number 3 nonchalantly replied, "I'm just following my boss." Burita smirked and revealed, "I'm here because today's main character happens to be in your group." As for Dylan, he smiled and replied with a forced tone, "I wanted to chat with the guy who made a complete reverse climb from the very bottom." William crossed his arms, speaking in a cold, deep voice, "I wanted to see the face of the person who jumped from rank 381 to number 1 in just a single month." Hearing this, number 3's jaw dropped in pure shock. "You want to talk to the top ranker?" Burita paused, questioning him inquisitively. "You're surprisingly eager to learn, aren't you?" Leonard stood frozen in utter confusion. "What exactly do you guys take me for?" William suddenly turned to look at him with a dead serious expression. "Furthermore, there's something I need to inform you about." Hearing this, number 3 instantly chimed in with a joke. "You've really changed a lot, or did the captain hit you on the head way too hard?" He snapped back in a furious shout, "Shut up." With that, he turned back and whispered to Leonard, "Anyway, listen carefully. Starting tomorrow, provisions will be distributed based on your performance as true descendants of the House of Cadinas. We're about to resume training. But before that, the Bloodline Awakening Ceremony will take place." The Bloodline Awakening Ceremony. The Cadinas bloodline possesses physical components that ordinary humans completely lack. The ceremony is a special ritual meant to awaken them. From now on, our training will focus entirely on that. Dylan let out a massive yawn and remarked that this must be why the Cadinas training grounds only taught the absolute basics until now. Hearing this, William bluntly asked in return, "Then what happens after that component awakens?" He hesitated briefly before continuing to explain, "Word has it that you'll be able to manipulate mana far more freely. Just like number 4 said, that's why spirits and spirit stones have been banned from the training grounds." Spirits and spirit stones, once the awakening ceremony concludes, the apprentices are considered finished with their preparations and will join the Azure Dragon Knight Order. Everyone gasped in pure awe upon hearing this. The Azure Dragon Knight Order? This is the first time I've ever heard of it. He chuckled softly and shared quietly, "This matter hasn't been widely publicized yet. On paper, there are only 7 Knight Orders." Hearing this, Burita instantly cut in. The Azure Dragon Order specializes in training through real combat. They gather the absolute elite to nurture the next generation. They design an optimal, personalized path for each apprentice, essentially giving you an early taste of the real world. The moment she finished speaking, William immediately turned his gaze to Leonard. Because of that, apprentices are categorized by grade and special abilities, meaning each person awakens a completely different component. Ah, that's right. He also seriously explained in great detail. To be precise, they are attribute manas and the number of cores varies from person to person. After listening, number 3 suddenly recalled something. Supposedly, dragon blood flows through the veins of the Cadinas family. Though as to whether it's true or false, even we don't really know. William continued his serious explanation. "By the way, the fewer cores you have, the better it is, right? Among them, a single core is considered the absolute peak. The fewer the cores, the higher the cultivation efficiency." He furrowed his brows, his eyes flashing with determination. "And I am definitely the one who possesses a single core." Seeing this, everyone chimed in simultaneously to deflate him. "Wipe that smug look off your face." Burita looked at him with a strained smile. "Don't take his words too much to heart. A single core user only appears once every 10 years. Leonard remained silent, thinking to himself that in his past life he had undergone a highly similar type of training. Originally, the 5 soul sources were the 5 elements. Leonard stared at her blankly. "Don't tell me there's a total of 5 cores. Burita paused for a moment before explaining, "That's called a quintuple core, and the training efficiency is unbelievably abysmal. For every additional core, you consume twice the resources. Not to mention, you have to maintain perfect balance among all the cores while training." He listened and nodded in agreement, deducing that this was why the efficiency tanked so drastically. If a single core is 1, a dual core is 4, a triple core is 8, a quadruple core is 16, and a quintuple core is a whopping 32 times. Those numbers are truly terrifying. She looked at him, her tone dropping significantly. "You should have already known this from the theory classes, right? Is the number 1 ranker really that clueless about theory?" Leonard knit his brows and replied nonchalantly, "That well." Burita suddenly burst into a silly laugh. "Hey, with real combat skills that incredible, who needs 3 paragraphs of empty theory anyway?" Leonard let out a helpless sigh. This concept was quite similar to his past life, so he could still manage, but if his old methods still worked here, it would be a massive opportunity. A moment later, he suddenly voiced a question. If someone actually manages to train all the cores, wouldn't a quintuple core be the absolute strongest? Dylan let out an innocent chuckle. "In theory, yes, but where would you find enough resources to train them? Without resources, no matter how much you train, there's a limit. Leonard and Burita simultaneously shot him a highly unamused look. Having multiple cores brought nothing but disadvantages, so keeping a single or triple core was the safest bet. Can someone please tell him to shut his mouth? Afterward, Burita asserted bluntly, I'd be perfectly satisfied with just a triple core. A single core draws way too much attention, it's a huge pain. Later on, someone suddenly spoke up and asserted, Leonard has a quintuple core. He walked away slowly, those words still echoing in his ears. Think about it, he has talent in swordsmanship but absolutely no affinity for the bloodline. Why would you treat him like that? Leonard helplessly told himself that he had truly become famous, but in a direction nobody would ever want. Then he stood alone in front of a room, his head lowered slightly in deep thought. A moment later, Leonard brushed his fingers against the corner of his slightly curling lips. I didn't exactly want things to end up like this either. Suddenly, he sensed something strange approaching from directly behind his back. Utilizing his sharp reflexes, Leonard luckily managed to evade an attack that had abruptly lunged at him. He turned his head to look, only to hear his opponent murmur softly, impressive. The opponent summoned his power, unable to stop exclaiming in admiration, to already grasp the essence of the sword at such a young age. The person before him was Fabian, who was slowly walking over, just like the rumors about you. Leonard, formerly holding rank 381. Hearing about his achievements, he couldn't help but marvel. Reaching this realm at your age is truly a rare sight. A remarkable level of perfection, even without utilizing aura. Leonard knit his brows and suddenly dropped a line. Isn't martial arts built from the mind and forged through the body? Fabian was stunned for a moment. Leonard confidently continued his explanation. I was under the impression that the presence of aura had nothing to do with the refinement of martial arts. The moment his words left his mouth, the man involuntarily burst into an amused, delighted laugh. A brief moment later, Fabian looked at him and spoke in a serious tone. It seems the rumors still haven't fully captured the extent of your capabilities. Great attitude, I like you. Saying that, he clasped his hands and politely introduced himself. My name is Fabian, Swordmaster and Captain of the Azure Dragon Knight Order. I pledge upon my honor and position that you are fully worthy of the special grade. I guarantee you will receive the absolute best treatment. Hearing this, the subordinate behind him suddenly spoke up to remind him, Captain, are you serious? But Leonard was just confirmed to have a quintuple core during the ceremony. Fabian suddenly asserted in a loud voice, the number of cores doesn't matter. Don't let such trivial matters obstruct the path to greatness. When talent is present, we must invest everything we have, so pay no mind to what others say. Having no choice, the subordinate reluctantly stepped forward. You qualify for the special tier, take this. Everything you need is inside, just pull it out whenever you want to use it. Leonard looked at it and blurted out with an intrigued expression, is this a spatial pouch? Fabian declared, as a special grade apprentice, I grant you the right of free choice. Feel free to choose as you please. Behind those doors lie different training grounds. Normally, I would assign them based on your proficiency level, but this time, I'm letting you decide for yourself. Leonard suddenly fixed his gaze straight ahead. Which location provides resources that best match my current level? Fabian laughed and nudged his shoulder. Good question. Anyone who avoids the path of hardship is no true martial artist. He looked over and slowly explained, in that case, you should head to Kalabog. It's the most remote island in the Empire. Even veteran knights give up because the environment is just too harsh. You can only describe it as untamed wilderness. Plus, some danger zones are no different from demonic domains. Excited yet? Leonard lightly touched his hand and replied politely, yes, thank you for your guidance, Commander Fabian. Looking at the mysterious power within himself, a thought arose. The reason training the 5 cores is considered difficult is simply because people don't know the proper way to practice. The 5 elements are both a continuous flow and a unified whole. If I can elevate all of them simultaneously, then this is a golden opportunity to surpass even the achievements of my past life. Leonard decided to grab his luggage and head inside. Fabian watched him leave and spoke softly, well, good luck to you. The moment Leonard stepped inside, he hurriedly shielded his face with his hand, looking around before concluding with certainty, Kalabogos. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind him, welcome. The moment he turned his head, he saw Bradley walking toward him. Leonard thought to himself, I didn't hear a single sound, this person's strength is formidable. He scanned Leonard from head to toe and asked, are you the rookie everyone's talking about? Leonard stepped back and bowed politely, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Leonard. He also offered a polite introduction, and I'm Bradley. I manage this Kalabagos region and serve as a senior knight of Basile's Squad 1 under the Azure Dragon Division. As he spoke, Bradley motioned with his hand, now let's talk somewhere else. You haven't introduced yourself to everyone yet, right? Leonard nodded in acknowledgement. Yes, that's correct. And so, he explained the basics as they walked. Everyone here is a trainee knight. Even if you're of the same rank, you should still show proper respect to your seniors. Walking quietly behind him, Leonard thought, Judging by his tone, it seems I don't need to be overly formal either. As they were walking, Bradley suddenly stopped. If you happen to run into them, you have absolutely nothing to fear. There are strict rules prohibiting anyone from giving first-year rookies like you a hard time. Leonard nodded reassuringly. I'll keep that in mind. Nodding his decisive attitude, he nodded with a flicker of satisfaction. Good. From today on, you'll be under my protection for 6 months, and the remaining 6 months will be your self-training phase. After that, you're entirely on your own. Got it? Leonard nodded firmly. Yes, I understand. Bradley continued laying out a few more details. Normally, your food, lodging, and clothes have nothing to do with me, but since you're a special beneficiary, I'll at least take care of your sleeping quarters. With that, he led him to a simple wooden cabin. Here, just use this room. It's got all the basic necessities inside. Leonard looked around and bowed politely. Thank you very much. Bradley placed special emphasis on the fact that outside of that, everything else was self-funded. In theory, as long as you have mana stones, you can buy anything, so act accordingly. Leonard nodded seriously, now completely cautious. Understood, Mr. Bradley. He nodded in satisfaction and kindly asked, that wraps up the basic orientation. Do you have any questions? He pondered for a moment and hesitated before speaking up. What exactly is the difference between the protection phase and the training phase? Bradley answered thoroughly. There's a slight difference, but it's pretty simple. During the protection phase, I'll assist you in all your activities, but once the training period starts, I only step in to guarantee that no one can lay a finger on you. He looked around the quarters warily. Are there any rules against injuring or killing people here? Bradley strongly emphasized. Murder is strictly forbidden. Leonard nodded, stepping inside. I see. One last thing, could you tell me the value of the resources I was just allocated? Sure, let me see. Bradley led him inside and instructed, you have 3,000 low-grade mana stones and 100 bottles of elixirs for each attribute. Seeing the massive pile of mana stones, Leonard couldn't help but think, even for the top student of the class, this amount is way too excessive. Seeing him quiet, Bradley glanced over, a sudden thought crossing his mind. I heard this kid Leonard is just from a branch family, yet even those in the main lineage aren't guaranteed to receive this much. It seems the commander favors him immensely. Leonard observed the stones and asked, what exactly is a mana stone anyway? He kindly clarified, it's an ore filled with mana. You just need to absorb that energy to gradually expand your mana core capacity. As he spoke, he looked at Leonard's heavy luggage. With this amount of supplies, a single core user could reach the 10th tier, while a 5-core user could probably crawl their way to the 5th tier. He widened his eyes, completely stunned. Tier, is that a type of ranking system? Seeing his shocked expression, Bradley just chuckled softly. Let me break it down for you. First, I'll teach you how to recognize the realms of a cultivator. Martial artists in this world are divided into 5 major realms and 10 minor realms. Each major realm consists of 10 small tiers, and as you cross each level, you gradually become a true martial artist. The first realm is the body refining realm. This is the stage for training the physical body. You use the internal mana to widen your mana core capacity. The second realm is the external power realm. This is the phase where you learn to transform refined mana into aura to project force outside your body. The third realm is the transcendent realm. This is the stage for hunting your unique ego, which is very hard to define since everyone is different. The fourth realm is the demigod realm. That's a state of transcending the mind, allowing your will to directly interfere with reality. After explaining the basics, Bradley began to emphasize, and at the 5th level, you will shed your mortal coil to touch divinity. The next phase he mentioned is called the God realm. Speaking up to this point, Bradley's expression suddenly darkened. However, aside from the Kadina's ancestor, no one has ever reached that level. He turned his back, his voice rising in anger. Some arrogant fools even cause trouble, claiming it's just a fabricated myth by the Kadina's family. Those pieces of trash probably forgot they'd be slaves for life if our ancestor hadn't stepped up to eliminate that evil dragon demon. A moment later, Bradley quietly stood up and coughed a few times to clear his throat. That's enough lecturing. Now, let's start the real training. He lightly pointed his hand toward Leonard. Your first task is mana cultivation. Use the resources to strengthen your body and expand your mana core capacity. This exercise is simple. You just need to absorb the energy from the mana stones. After explaining for a bit, Bradley immediately opened the door to leave. I'll leave you to it. Good luck. Leonard was caught off guard, blanking out. Wait, what? Before he could voice his thoughts, Bradley had already rushed out. I wish you success. Alone in the room, Leonard stared at the mana stones, deeply contemplating them, just absorbing it. He picked up a mana stone to inspect it. The mana around here is incredibly rich. I can just take a stroll while absorbing it, and that'll be enough for training. Is the act of absorption itself a difficult challenge for others? At that thought, he didn't hesitate to squeeze his hand, crushing the mana stone. If that's the case, then I'm incredibly lucky. A smug smile crept onto Leonard's face. After all, he had already gone through this in his past life. That night, when the moon was high in the sky, Leonard was alone in the wooden cabin, carefully assessing his progress. This is strange. He looked at his veins popping out on his arm with a bit of confusion. Even though I have the experience, isn't this pace a little too fast? Seeing that the results defied his expectations, Leonard sighed in disbelief. To think I reached the 3rd tier in just a few short hours. At this rate, it'll probably take me only a single day to hit the 5th tier. After a while, he lay flat on the floor in utter helplessness, thinking it over. Thanks to retaining my past life's memories, this training has become entirely too easy. The mechanism of the 5 cores is identical to the 5 elements from my past life, and this absorption method is just a basic exercise. But if I finish this in a single day, it'll definitely raise suspicion. Should I hide out in the mountains and train for a few days to keep a low profile? While deep in a state of confusion, he suddenly thought of Fabian. Wait a minute, the commander already believes I'm an unrivaled genius. Ideas began to pop into his head. If I display my past life's techniques right now, I might just play the role of that genius flawlessly. Otherwise, all this potential would go completely to waste. Meanwhile, outside, Yan and his crew were patrolling the forest. The moment they spotted the wooden shelter, they couldn't help but marvel. Truly impressive. Hasn't that kid locked himself in his room for over a month now? Exactly a month and a half, actually. Hayden, who was walking along, frowned and scoffed disdainfully. He's probably planning to stay in seclusion until he reaches at least the 5th tier before coming out, right? That's the bare minimum to survive in this godforsaken place. Yan shook his head and sighed, hearing that was quite heartbreaking. Finding nothing interesting, the other guy suggested, "Let's just go fishing, boss. We don't have time to worry about that rookie." They complained gloomily as they walked away. "If we don't catch anything today or tomorrow, we'll have to shell out mana stones just to trade for food. This is terrible. After all, our level is only on par with lowly goblins. That's uncalled for. We can at least beat an orc level threat. Both of those types are the absolute weakest around here anyway." Just as the voices faded into the distance, the wooden door rattled and quickly creaked open. Leonard stepped outside, letting out a sigh of relief. He wiped the dust off his face and wondered if he should ask Mr. Bradley for a real sword. The next day, Bradley froze upon hearing this request. "You want a real sword?" He drew his blade and looked straight at Leonard, questioning him. "What's your reason?" He answered honestly. "I feel the need to get used to a real weapon instead of using a wooden sword forever." In his mind, Bradley looked at him and began to mock, grew a little stronger and already acting all arrogant. The moment he finished speaking, Leonard shattered a nearby boulder barehanded. The impact of the punch was so perfect that Bradley's eyes widened in astonishment. He was visibly shocked and blurted out praise. "I can't believe your 5 cores actually reached the 3rd tier in just a month and a half." Bradley hesitated, then raised his voice to emphasize, "This growth rate is certainly impressive, but..." He glared at him and shouted loudly, "Don't get ahead of yourself, rookie." Facing this reaction, Leonard widened his eyes, finding himself backed into a corner. "What, with my current strength?" Bradley tapped him on the head with his sword hilt. "Don't look so terrified." He dropped his angry expression, replacing it with a look of genuine concern as he advised, "Just don't do anything reckless." Leonard rubbed his head and took the sword. "Thank you." Bradley suddenly remembered something. "If you lose that sword, you'll have to compensate me with mana stones." Leonard asked earnestly, "What if it breaks?" He pulled out a mana stone and smirked. "Then you pay with mana stones too, obviously." Leonard involuntarily gave a wry smile. "Sounds fair enough." Bradley turned to leave, not forgetting to offer encouragement. "Just do your best." Leonard carefully opened the map to study it. "So now I have a sword." Looking at the map, he began to calculate. "I should probably go scout things out." Under the cover of darkness, Leonard made the decision to head toward the ruined forest. Only green footsteps could be seen stamping across the ground. Before his eyes, a pack of hideous-looking hobgoblins emerged. Suddenly, the scent of fresh blood wafted through the air, catching their attention. At the same time, Leonard stepped forward with a sharp sword in hand, muttering in a low voice, "Even if I wipe them all out, the heavy scent of blood can't be hidden." Next, he took a running start and lunged powerfully forward. Afterward, Leonard coldly delivered those sword strikes to the hobgoblins. "I'll grant you a swift end." One of them took the attack head-on and was instantly split in two. Leonard touched a glowing stone and noted to himself, when monsters die, they drop their mana in the form of spirit crystals. After clearing out the entire pack of hobgoblins, he narrowed his eyes. Gathering about 100 low-grade crystals a day isn't bad. Another thought followed. I probably can't progress any further in this ruined forest. The ruined forest is clearly a place inhabited by those rejected from the food chain. Leonard thought gloomily to himself that only weak E-rank creatures lived here. Next, he slightly turned his head to look back, his pupils shifting over his shoulder. After sensing that something was moving, Leonard noted in his mind, "This scent is completely different from earlier. An ogre." The hand gripping his sword trembled involuntarily. While a thought flashed through his mind at the same time, It didn't even bother to hide its presence, meaning it views me entirely as prey. Afterward, Leonard knitted his brows, getting into a combat-ready stance. It seemed he was being looked down upon by a beast. Next, he scowled slightly in defiance. "Come at me, you dog." The moment those words left his mouth, a loud crash echoed as if things were violently colliding. Right before Leonard's eyes was the image of a ferocious wolf with sharp fangs pouncing forward. But before it could achieve anything, he delivered a crushing strike to push it back. The dense smoke gradually cleared, revealing Leonard standing with both arms up in a defensive block. Next, he scowled at the ogre before him with pure contempt. "Stop barking, you dead dog." With its eyes rolled back and saliva dripping from its mouth, it let out a massive roar. Leonard gripped his wrist tightly, thinking to himself, to have such terrifying power just from shifting its attack direction. Next, he took a running start and leaped high into the air to evade the ogre's strike. "Then I'll just dodge everything." Suddenly, horrifying veins bulged along the ogre's forearm. Seeing this, Leonard glanced over and realized the information was slightly off. This ogre wasn't normal at all. A standard goblin is E1 rank, and when it evolves into a hobgoblin, it reaches E2. A normal ogre would be D1 rank. He remained lost in his thoughts. Usually monsters only evolve once and stop, but this one's power doesn't look like D2 rank at all. If that's the case, at the same time, Leonard leaned his body to dodge the ogre's attack. What he was currently facing was a D3 rank ogre, but he just smirked with utter disdain. "Then I have no other choice." Leonard, with his crimson eyes flashing, glared straight at it, thinking it had been a while since he got a decent workout. The ogre, looking slightly panicked, violently swung its weapon at its opponent, sending dirt and rocks flying into the air. At the same time, Leonard lightly tapped the tip of his foot onto its axe blade. "Wild strikes like these will never touch me." As soon as he said that, he brought his sword down hard onto the ogre's head. And then Leonard powerfully unleashed a sword strike directly at the monster's neck. But the ogre was completely unharmed. Seeing this, he frowned and thought, so tough that the impact actually sent sparks flying. At the same time, the monster slammed its axe down hard, targeting his exact position. But when it saw that it had only struck empty ground, it flinched in surprise. Leonard glanced up with eyes full of pure contempt. "Just as I thought, it's nothing more than a beast with brute strength." A line of thought followed. "Here's my chance. While its axe is stuck, if cutting it with a sword doesn't work, then..." Suddenly, he spun around backward, letting out a loud shout that left the ogre momentarily dazed. Next, he smirked slightly and noted to himself, "Even though its muscles and bones are incredibly tough, it can't protect this weakness." Leonard, with his sharp weapon in hand, drove a thrust straight up from its chin through the top of its head. At the same time, something glittering with a silvery white light scattered across the sky. Leonard raised his brows in admiration at the sight. Well, that's a surprise. To find a mid-grade crystal even in this ruined forest, this single stone is worth 100 low-grade ones combined. If there are more like this, my internal energy will progress rapidly. Next, he muttered in a low voice, "No wonder the trainee knights didn't even bother to look at this place." He simultaneously noted in his mind, "Even so, I have no further business staying here." The scene shifted, revealing a wooden door with a faint blue light emitting from inside the room. Leonard could be seen sitting down, fully focused on his cultivation as powerful energy radiated around him. Afterward, he looked at the object in his palm and broke into a sweat, knowing things were progressing smoothly. But to think he had already hit the 10th tier of body refining. And then a question arose in Leonard's mind, a 5-core user breaking through to the 10th tier in just a few months. This will obviously cause a lot of trouble. Is there a way to secure more resources without standing out too much? Suddenly, a voice rang out, catching him slightly off guard. "Hey, do you think something happened to him?" The person beside him replied, 3 months have already passed. It looks like he hasn't set foot outside at all." Hayden broke into a sweat, frowning as he complained, "Do we really have to come check on him every single day like this?" Yan knitted his brows, speaking up in a low voice, "We need to become his very first kind seniors." In a legendary swordsmanship family like Kadina's, connections are the ultimate weapon. A relationship established here is far more valuable than shallow bonds with minor families. Plus, he's the top student. Word is even the commander has his eye on him. Next, he reminded him that they should at least go say hello. Hayden, holding a water bucket, snapped back in irritation. "All right, I get it. Stop nagging." Afterward, Hayden shouted loudly, "Hey rookie, you still alive in there? If you don't eat properly, how is your training supposed to be effective?" Sensing no movement inside, he questioned suspiciously, "Could he be dead?" One of the other two suggested gloomily, "Let's just go back. I don't hear a single sound inside." Hearing those words, Leonard narrowed his eyes slightly, thinking to himself, they're actually kinder seniors than one would think. So that's why they keep lingering around to check on the situation. Through the gap, I can clearly see his face. If it's Leonard, the training results will easily be exposed. But if it's a senior who has been on this island for 10 years, no one will suspect a thing. Next, he murmured to himself in a low voice, "It's been a really long time. I wonder if I can still pull it off. Oh well, let's just give it a shot and see. Leonard closed his eyes and raised both hands, performing a reverse technique, a makeup removal technique, by precisely controlling the muscles and blood vessels on his face. A man with long white hair emerged, accompanied by a flashing thought. Ever since I became the Sword Emperor, I've had absolutely no reason to hide my identity. Leonard's face was gradually transforming, and then he told himself in his mind that he never expected a day would come where he'd have to use it to conceal his strength. Leonard looked down at his own hands and spoke up. All right, like this, they definitely won't recognize me. Wearing Hayden's face, he spoke softly. You are Hayden, right? Please look after me in the coming days. 3 months later, at the Bone Mountain Swamp, a scene of utter desolation unfolded before his eyes. Right at this moment, a thought surfaced in Leonard's mind, an immutable survival rule that I've hammered out for myself. A blood-soaked survival lesson from all this time, every single creature in this godforsaken place. He reminded himself with a dead serious expression, is poisonous and possesses masterful stealth skills. Therefore, I must absolutely never drop my guard. Just a single minute of distraction, and I'll instantly become food for the lamias lurking beneath the swamp. Carrying Hayden's face, Leonard narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, an ordinary lizard has already reached C rank. They are far more ferocious than that mutated ogre. Since they are too numerous, I will finish them all off in a single strike. He slammed his foot hard against the ground, and next Leonard lunged fiercely toward a lamia with his weapon in hand. With just a single blow, he successfully brought down the monster. Next, Leonard coldly delivered a slash straight to the crown of the lamia's head. As if realizing something, he murmured in a deep voice, it seems I just made a bit too much noise. Looks like the boss around here has already woken up. And then Leonard instantly whipped his head back, spotting a lamia rushing toward him with a razor-sharp spear. Suddenly, it startled and let out a massive screech. At the same time, Leonard coldly evaluated, you're fast, but your technique is far too simple. Next, showing absolutely no mercy, he kicked hard against the lamia's spine. I don't have time to linger with someone who knows absolutely nothing about orthodox swordsmanship. The moment Leonard took it down, a brilliantly sparkling diamond materialized. He glanced back at the glowing objects inside his pouch and raised his brows, speaking up. I've gathered enough 500 mid-grade spirit crystal stones. It's time to move on to the next phase. A train of thought simultaneously surfaced in his mind. It was time to change real combat locations. He pondered deeply at this moment, thinking to himself, right now, I am at the 10th layer of the body refining realm. Even though I'm borrowing Hayden's face to avoid scrutiny, if I break through my realm right here on this Calabagos island, keeping it a secret will become incredibly difficult. Leonard gently took step after step forward, and while lightly swinging his sword, he spoke up, I need a place that can suppress the mana explosion and keep me hidden, at the very least, a shelter from the wind and rain. Suddenly, Leonard startled and glanced to the side, as if noticing something. Next, he questioned dubiously in his mind, is that a field over there? Leonard surveyed the area, thinking to himself in sheer amazement, I never expected there would be so many spiritual herbs with a mana absorption rate even higher than spirit crystal stones. At the same time, a question arose in his mind. Could it be that the troll guarding this cave is the one cultivating them? The previously stationary troll suddenly startled and let out a roar. Seeing this, Leonard quickly dropped into a crouch. Something is rushing over. A powerful gust of wind materialized right at the troll's position. Right before its eyes was a ferocious wolf with its massive jaws wide open. He was a bit surprised, silently recognizing it as a lycanthrope. The ground beneath the troll's feet cracked open, as though cracking under a massive, crushing pressure. A barrier manifested in front of it, preventing the lycanthrope from striking its target. That monster seemed to realize something and leapt backward. While Leonard thought in sheer curiosity, are they fighting over territory? It unleashed a move that shook the entire ground. Have monsters of that caliber already learned to manipulate natural powers? He watched the troll's actions and thought to himself, manipulating tens of tons of earth and stone at will, even for me, that wouldn't be easy. But the other creature was also evading the blows at lightning speed. Before Leonard's eyes right now was an incredibly evenly matched battle between the troll and the lycanthrope. With neither side willing to yield, the two monsters roared simultaneously as if to display their raw power. He just watched silently, predicting in his mind that this battle certainly wouldn't end anytime soon. Leonard seized this opportunity to instantly drop down right in front of the cave entrance. Then he subtly glanced over, thinking that while they were busy, he would slip inside to explore the cave. Leonard stepped into the cavern without a second thought. If a troll of that caliber was standing guard outside, there had to be some incredibly valuable treasure hidden within. Inside the cave, the only sound that echoed was his own footsteps. Leonard knit his brows and told himself, I've barely stepped inside and I can no longer hear the commotion outside. This truly is the perfect spot for me to break through my realm. A faint golden light appeared ahead. he questioned with a trace of curiosity, wondering what exactly this place could be. A tree with golden leaves was radiating a brilliant light source. Leonard broke into a cold sweat at the sight. Are these all mid-grade spiritual herbs? Did that troll really grow all of this? Next, he turned his gaze toward a few jade-green branches nearby, but sensed that something was incredibly off. Despite the massive quantity of herbs here, he couldn't sense a single thing standing from the outside. Next, Leonard thrust his hand forward, releasing a powerful wave of green energy. That attack was instantly deflected by a thick barrier. The sound of the impact vibrated through the silent cavern. He broke into a sweat at the sight, a smile spreading across his face. I get it. These things have been protecting and concealing this place. Next, Leonard looked up at the golden tree and questioned dubiously. Everything about this cave is incredibly bizarre. What exactly is the species of that brilliant golden tree? He reached out his hand, gently touching a few golden leaves as he displayed a curious expression. I've heard of mid-grade spiritual herbs, but does a tree like this actually exist in the world? It has to be high-grade, right? Maybe even far beyond that. I suspect that troll doesn't even know the true value of this tree. I plan to break through my major realm right here. But then, Leonard suddenly snapped his eyes open and subtly glanced behind him. The moment he saw the battered figure of the troll, his voice dropped. It seems I have a guest again. A flash of light appeared, as though something was moving at a highly elevated speed. Leonard darted away like an arrow, knitting his brows as he thought, due to this place's property of suppressing mana and sound, I completely failed to realize he was approaching. The troll behind him looked as though it had just endured a brutal battle. He looked at its body and thought to himself, fortunately, the wounds from his battle haven't had time to heal yet. Right at this moment, a colossally powerful energy erupted around its body, causing earth and stone to soar into the air. The sound of fracturing rock echoed through the space. Leonard reacted instantly, leaping upward to evade the blow. Staring at the cave entrance that had been blocked off, he thought deeply. Instead of a head-on assault, he targeted the entrance to trap me inside. An excited smile surfaced on Leonard's lips, and then he knit his brows and shouted, "Fine, have it your way, I'll trade blows with you until the very end." The sounds of crashing rocks thundered through the silent night, as the cave entrance was completely sealed off by massive boulders, leaving no entry point remaining. Inside the cave, a scene unfolded as the heavily wounded troll unleashed a strike straight ahead. Leonard evaded the blow while shifting his gaze, thinking to himself, did he realize after just a few exchanges that he can't win in terms of speed? He watched its actions and thought to himself that he never expected it to hurl rocks around in such a completely reckless, desperate manner. Next, Leonard used a flying boulder as a stepping stone while reminding himself that taking a single hit from this would be enough to lose his life. He subtly cast his gaze forward, thinking to himself that this guy was remarkably sharp. With that thought, Leonard agilely charged straight toward the troll's position. Radiating a powerful surge of energy, he knit his brows and charged forward. Leonard locked his eyes on the monster before him and asserted with absolute certainty, I will finish him off in one single strike. Next, he forcefully slashed his sword straight into its mouth, causing the troll to let out an agonizing cry. Leonard didn't halt his momentum, continuing to extend his sword stroke. But seeing that it remained completely unscathed, he gritted his teeth and told himself, he has coated himself in surrounding earth and stone for protection. If it weren't for that. Leonard watched the troll swing its fist, thinking to himself, of course, as it delivered an attack packing colossal damage, slamming down and causing the ground to fracture violently. Next, the troll slowly raised its clenched fist back up. Leonard caught sight of this and provoked, I get it now. No wonder the werewolf clan suffered such a miserable defeat. Next, he exposed the truth bluntly. From the very beginning, you were a dual element user. The troll gritted its teeth and let out a growl upon hearing this. And next, it furiously stomped its foot against the ground, causing the surrounding space to involuntarily tremble. He stared at the colossal entity before him, thinking deeply that this was no longer a problem that could be solved simply by closing the distance. Touching that intense heat would cause me to melt in the blink of an eye. I must find an opening and finish him with a decisive blow. With that thought, Leonard instantly darted forward. He locked his gaze onto the troll's legs and silently asserted that the time had come. Next, Leonard, his eyes flashing with potent murderous intent, forcefully launched himself toward the monster. He showed absolutely no hesitation, kicking hard against the troll's knee. Leonard raised his eyes, thinking to himself, how incredibly nostalgic this feeling is. And then, while watching, he delivered a striking blow right under its chin. It's all over. A massive crash thundered out, and the troll's entire body looked as though it was about to topple backward. Meanwhile, Leonard swiftly backed away, scaling and gripping onto the cavern wall. Next, he utilized all his strength to build momentum and launch himself straight back at the monster. Leonard pointed the sharp tip of his blade at the troll and roared, it's way too late now. He drove the sharp blade, packed with an immense source of energy, directly into its body. Leonard caught sight of this and raised his brows, speaking up. I've pierced straight through his chest. This time it's definitely over. Suddenly, he startled and shifted his gaze, as if sensing something. A brilliantly vibrant reddish-pink light source began to emanate from within the troll's body. It was a stone with a black rim and a pink center, and it looked as though it was right on the verge of shattering. And then, a massive explosion erupted right at that position. A fierce, blazing fire erupted, gradually sweeping across the grass on the ground. Even though the ground was completely engulfed in flames, the blades of grass remained completely unharmed. At the same time, Leonard extended his hand to shield himself, gritting his teeth as he thought, crap, if he detonates at this close range, it's far too dangerous. Instantly, another explosion detonated, and he was blasted backward by the sheer force of the impact. His back slammed violently into a tree trunk, causing Leonard to scream out in excruciating pain. With blood welling up and spilling from his mouth, he thought to himself, that impact against the tree trunk feels like it completely shattered all my bones. With his body covered in wounds, Leonard leaned against the base of the tree and thought anxiously, furthermore, this entire cave will be reduced to ashes in less than 5 minutes. In a remote, isolated place like this, there's no hope of anyone coming to help, meaning no one will ever know what happened here. Word has it that upon reaching a higher realm, the body heals automatically. There's no time left to hesitate. Then he reached out his hand and picked up a scattered spirit crystal stone from the ground. Leonard gripped it tightly, glaring ahead as he roared, I'm going all the way. Next, he snapped his eyes shut, a train of thought surfacing. I can feel it. The mana from the spirit crystal is soaking into my damaged mana pathways. My body is being miraculously healed by the spirit crystal. Next, Leonard stepped toward the grass growing on the ground, thinking that this still wasn't enough. Then he bent down and told himself that he had to absorb every single spiritual herb in this entire spot. Leonard reached out, ripping up several spiritual herbs and stuffing them straight into his mouth. And then, while sitting on the ground recovering from his injuries, he told himself, all preparations are complete. The overwhelming amount of mana is surging fiercely, and the quintuple cores have begun to rotate simultaneously. I can feel all the energy fusing into one, just as though I've just received a brand new heart. A powerful, faint blue energy completely enveloped Leonard at this moment. Both his body and mana had fully recovered, and he had just broken through into an entirely new realm. Yet, why wasn't that power stopping? This was despite him far exceeding the limit of power a human could possibly bear. This truly is exactly like a dragon's heart. Before their eyes was a scene of Leonard sitting beneath the tree, focusing his entire energy on recovery. His eyes widened in pure astonishment as he thought, not only has the mana from the quintuple cores completely harmonized, but my realm has also jumped straight to the third layer of the external force realm. Recalling the faces of 3 people, Leonard thought to himself, those seniors were stuck at the second layer for years. This matter will definitely cause a massive stir in Cadenas. Afterward, he looked at the powerful energy coursing wildly through his body. The wounds on his body had completely healed, and the flow of mana was cycling much faster and stronger than before. Leonard clenched his hand, a trace of surprise on his face. I never expected that simply breaking through a major realm would result in such staggering progress. Next, he raised his head to look at the colossal tree with a bewildered mindset. But how on earth did I survive that horrific explosion inside an enclosed space? I didn't feel any of that terrifying heat, even though it should have been completely unendurable. Suddenly, Leonard slightly narrowed his eyes, so that's why. Before his eyes right now was something hanging from the tree, radiating light. He reached out and touched it without any hesitation. The brilliant light dissolved, leaving behind a single, solitary fruit. At the same time, a thought flashed through Leonard's mind. It was that rich source of spiritual energy that had protected him and this cave from the ferocious column of fire. Holding the fruit, he silently noted that holding this fruit in his hand felt entirely natural. Next, Leonard questioned dubiously in his mind, did it really drain every single last drop of mana? Then he turned back and called out into the space behind him, I will plant a new seed for you. Come to think of it, you're the one who saved my life from a certain defeat. And then Leonard swiftly ran out of that dark cavern. While sprinting like lightning, he thought to himself, if I get back any later, it'll raise suspicions immediately. I need to get out of here fast. A massive thundering sound echoed through the area. The earth and stone blocking the cave entrance seemed to be blasted apart by some immense force. Leonard, his body entirely free of scratches, swiftly darted out from the inside. He was drenched in sweat from exhaustion, yet a smug smirk spread across his face. I seem to be a bit too strong now. I accidentally overdid it just now. Hopefully nobody makes a massive fuss out of this. Standing from a distance, Leonard could already see the city right before his eyes. Next, he shifted his gaze to the fur lining on his shoulder. Awesome, made it back just in time. Leonard looked at his clothes and his messy condition, then raised his brows and muttered to himself, explaining this appearance to the seniors is going to be a huge pain right now, so I'd better clean up my gear first. A line of thought followed. After all, for the past 3 months, I've still been focusing on training with them at this exact time every single day. At the same time, Hayden let out a gasp of surprise. Next, he broke into a sweat and pointed his finger toward the door. Hey, look over there, the door is opening on its own. Hayden flinched at the sight unfolding before his eyes, wondering since when that had been happening, while Yan beamed with joy and ran right up to Leonard. Hey there, I'm Yan, just call me Senior. Hearing this, he also bowed politely and introduced himself. I am Leonard. Leonard, holding his sword in his hand, hesitantly spoke up. Senior, to be honest, my swordsmanship skills have been hitting a plateau lately, so I was wondering if you'd be willing to have a sparring match with me. He broke into a sweat, asking back with a hint of anxiety. This sounds a bit sudden. Yan ran a hand through his hair with a confident demeanor. Since you put it that way, I can't really bring myself to refuse. Seeing this, Hayden called out helplessly, Hey Yan. Afterward, he smirked proudly and made an offer. Follow me, and I'll show you what a Kadina's knight's style truly looks like. A thought also flashed through his mind. Awesome. Now I completely have the upper hand. Suddenly, Yan widened his eyes in absolute shock, as if he had just witnessed something unbelievable. He looked down at his own body in utter confusion. Why am I floating in midair like this? The result was clear. Yan had lost the sparring match. Ju, having tasted Leonard's raw power, sat on the ground and raised his hand. I surrender. Ju had lost as well. Only a loud crash echoed through the air, revealing an image of Hayden looking completely bewildered by Leonard's blinding speed. Gritting his teeth in sheer frustration, he questioned him. Damn it, is this really the skill level of someone who just left the training grounds? Right at that moment, something suddenly thrusted forward, making Hayden widen his eyes in surprise. He immediately reacted by reflex, raising his hand to block the attack. At the same time, a surge of crimson power flared up along Hayden's arm. Seeing this, Yan jumped in shock and shouted, Hey Hayden, are you crazy? Why the hell did you use mana in a spar? Hearing that, his face instantly turned pale. And then all three of them rushed over in a panic. Hayden, with an anxious expression, asked Leonard in a loud voice, Leonard, are you all right? Leonard calmly replied with his hand still smoking, yes. He flusteredly tried to explain himself, I'm so sorry, it was just pure instinct, so I accidentally used a self-defense move. Meanwhile, he looked down at the wound on his palm and thought to himself, so just using mana to block a blade is enough to inflict damage. It seems swordsmanship isn't everything in this world. Next, a faint smile curled at the corners of Leonard's mouth. As a line of thought followed, at first, I only intended to help them train to return the favor for the disguise incident, but it looks like there's plenty for me to learn here too. Hayden asked hesitantly, still looking a bit worried. Why aren't you mad, Leonard? Leonard picked up his sword with his injured hand and spoke up cheerfully. I look forward to continuing our training together, seniors. I'm sure it's going to be a blast with everyone. He gasped in surprise upon hearing that. You seriously still want to keep training? He confessed honestly, if possible, I'd like to train like this every single day. Yan bit his nails, breaking into sweat as he hesitated. All right then, we'll drop by your 10 often. For the sake of building connections, I can't afford to let this chance slip away. The image of a hand knocking a few times on the wooden door emerged. Running a hand through his hair, he raised his brows and announced, Leonard, are you in? Sorry, but tonight's training session has to be cancelled. Leonard went to open the door, asking in confusion if something had happened, nodding that the other two were nowhere to be seen either. Another question popped up in his mind as their gear looked much stranger than usual. Are they heading into real combat? Afterward, he spoke up. Haven't you heard about the massive explosion near the Bone Mountain swamp? It's causing an absolute uproar, so I rushed over to let you know. Hearing this, he let out a sigh of relief, thinking to himself, good, it seems I'm not under suspicion. Next, Yan broke into a sweat and recounted the rumor, saying a werewolf and a troll who had reached the true demon realm fought over territory at the Bone Mountain swamp. The troll was incinerated into ash, while the werewolf met a brutal end, with its hide completely peeled off. And then his voice turned solemn. It must have been a horrific battle to the death. Now that those two bosses are dead, the low-level monsters are swarming the swamp to scavenge. Next, he broke into a sweat and suggested, as you can see, we have to go clean up this mess. Consider it a night assignment. You're not at the level for real combat yet, so just stay here and get some rest. Suddenly, Yan reached behind his back to grab something. Almost forgot, I got a gift for you. Yan tossed several swords onto the ground and spoke up. You must have broken quite a few blades by now, right? It's nothing fancy, but I brought you these 5 swords and they're pretty decent to use. Seeing this, Leonard was momentarily dazed. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, he pointed at himself and smiled. Don't forget me when you become famous later on, all right? Leonard nodded with a smile on his face. Most definitely, Senior Yan. Yan turned to leave but didn't forget to warn him. Also, don't go wandering around outside tonight. Most of the knights guarding this island are currently gathering at the swamp. You should be fine, but just be careful. There are things in this world where swordsmanship alone isn't enough. He answered with a serious face. I highly appreciate your advice. At the same time, a thought arose. To think the incident was massive enough to involve the entire Knight Order. If I move carelessly, it's going to be a huge mess. However, this is a golden opportunity now that everyone's attention has been diverted. Only the sound of footsteps echoed through the quiet space. Leonard pulled his hood over his head, frowning as he thought that he could act more boldly without worrying about any issues. Even so, using the reversal technique right now is quite risky. Since the seniors' positions are clearly accounted for, if I accidentally run into someone while looking like Hayden, it'll only trigger a fresh wave of chaos. Next, he spoke up with a slightly dissatisfied expression. It's a bit annoying, but I guess I'll just use that werewolf's hide. Next, Leonard thought to himself with a serious look, with most people converging on a single point, I can move around freely. This truly is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He fixed his eyes dead ahead, toward the opposite side of the training ground. Let's go explore the owl fields. Ahead of Leonard right now was a vast expanse of open wilderness. Leonard took in the surrounding scenery. It's incredibly quiet. He had already detected enemies nearby and waited for them to strike. Just stand there and watch me from deep within that thick fog. I can clearly feel that murderous gaze, but why haven't they pounced yet? He muttered to himself as he walked. I don't know if they're being overly cautious or if they've completely lost their nerve. At this rate, it's just going to be a massive waste of time. A bird plummeted from the sky at a blistering speed. The bird stopped right in front of him, staring at him. Leonard slowly faced his first opponent. Are you my first challenger? A harpy. He was highly thrilled to test out his skills. A monster of your caliber is absolutely perfect for testing my techniques. The fifth Phantom of Kyrgyz announced to everyone, we've arrived. This is Kalabog Island. He stood before the crowd and shared, we've lost a total of 2 members. He spoke with a highly aggrieved tone. It seems they failed to catch the updraft and plunged into the sea. Look at this situation, even though we've dedicated our entire lives to our homeland. He burst out in frustration. Will the heavens really not understand our plight? He used that as fuel to urge the others forward. We absolutely cannot let the deaths of our comrades be in vain. We must accomplish this mission at all costs, for the kingdom of Kyrgyz. The fifth Phantom of Kyrgyz roared in emphasis, ordering them to capture that Kadina's trainee alive. We must unearth every single secret behind that foul bloodline of theirs. Hearing his orders, the group split up to execute the task. Show no mercy, even if the target is just a child. They are the root of all evil. Over at a barren wasteland, where sunlight was blazing down everywhere, Gron was running frantically across the desert, his mind highly unstable. I've lost everyone before I even realized it. He recalled the situation, blurting out in pure terror, I have no idea how many rank monsters are crawling on this island. At the thought that he wouldn't dare fight without the captain around, Gron wondered, what on earth are those Kadina's demons plotting on this island anyway? He clutched his mask tightly as he ran, but ever since he stepped onto these plains, not a single monster had threatened him. Gron rejoiced inwardly, how fortunate. It seems the deeper you go into the island, the weaker the monsters get. Or rather, someone has already taken care of them, but that doesn't matter. Spotting a monster standing tall up ahead, Gron charged forward without hesitation. That looks like a harpy. It's strong, but I have more than enough to handle it. He rapidly closed the distance to the beast. Just as he was about to deliver a fatal blow, he realized the monster was already long dead. Wait a minute, when did this thing die? Gron stood over the creature's corpse, wondering if someone else was also here. He scanned the surroundings to assess the situation, realizing that more than one had been taken down. What a highly skilled combatant. Out of nowhere, a stone flew straight toward where Gron was standing. Showing no surprise, he easily deflected it. Who's standing there? Leonard materialized, shooting back with a question of his own. That's exactly what I was about to ask. Gron stared at him, blurting out in sheer, panicked astonishment, what the hell? His mouth felt as if it were tightly sealed, leaving him speechless, while Leonard continued pressuring him. Who exactly are you? He braced himself to unleash his power. You can't talk right now, can you? I guess I'll just find out who you are myself. Realizing he couldn't speak, Gron fell into utter panic. Damn it, my voice. He gripped his sword tightly, preparing a counterattack. He swung a powerful strike straight at Leonard. Agilely dodging it, he didn't forget to comment on the strike dripping with murderous intent. It seems you have absolutely no intention of holding back, do you? Every single one of his attacks was easily neutralized by him. Gron was utterly stunned by his exceptional talent. My attack was completely stopped by a mere kid. Leonard stamped his foot hard, preparing to lunge forward. He rapidly dashed straight toward him, unleashing a massive blow that left him completely unable to retaliate. He wondered to himself as the damage didn't match his expectations. The cut is very shallow. Was it blocked by something? A magic artifact, perhaps? Gron unleashed a secret sword technique, conjuring a powerful golden serpent from his blade. To think I'd actually have to use this move against a kid. If I don't go all out, I'll be the one in danger. The moment Leonard saw the move, he saw right through it. Are you hiding something inside your sword? Such a underhanded and vicious assassination technique, just like a venomous snake. He instantly rushed toward Gron with a mocking remark, but it's still way too green. Your blade trajectory is so obvious it's boring. The two locked in close combat. Leonard interrogated him while clashing blades. You've only ever bullied weaklings up until now, haven't you? Facing Leonard's sudden surge of power, Gron still managed to smirk. He used some sort of mysterious power to lock his blade in place. He casually remarked, "I actually feel a bit sorry for you, but to think you'd willingly throw away your own sword like that." Leonard's next move caught Gron completely off guard. This kid, he actually threw his sword away. Leonard clenched his fist, preparing to swing a punch right at his face. Undaunted by that bizarre sealing power, he fiercely countered, "Did you think I'd be useless if you sealed my weapon? How childish." He unleashed a devastating punch that blasted him far back. Incredible as it was, Gron's face was beaten black and blue, yet he didn't forget to praise his opponent's power. To deliver such strikes and make such bold tactical judgments at that age, could he have already awakened the power of that foul bloodline? Night fell, leaving only the moonlight to illuminate the barren land. Leonard continued packing along peacefully. Leonard tied the guy tightly to a tree and threatened him, "Do you understand your current situation now? I'm certain your mana and body are completely useless right now, meaning your life is entirely in my hands." Tied up as he was, Gron remained defiant, cursing out, "You coward." He spat insults at him, "You foul Kadina's demon, using such despicable power to insult my pride. I will never forgive you." Leonard blanked out for a moment upon hearing that. He pointed toward his weapon, which was radiating a strange magic aura, and countered the mockery. "What are you rambling about? Aren't you using a similar magic artifact yourself? Calling me a coward after doing that, you really are an idiot." He still stubbornly held onto his logic, snapping back, "Shut up, there's no such thing as playing dirty against the Kadinas. I will definitely expose that freakish power you're using." Leonard raised his fist, leaving him slightly confused. He shouted with pure defiance, "Just kill me already and get it over with." Leonard nonchalantly tossed out, "Whether you live or die is for me to decide, so you don't even have the right to beg for death." Gron remained fiercely resolute, showing no fear. "I won't say a single word even if I die, you brat with tainted blood." Hearing those repeated slurs, he questioned, "Tainted blood? You're referring to the Kadina's lineage." Leonard stared at his blood-stained hand, deep in thought, while the guy kept barking in his ear, "You can't deny the sins flowing through your veins." He flatly stated, "Being raised in that evil family, you must know it full well. You people aren't even human to begin with, and if a monster with freakish power like a mutant appears, it was definitely born among your kind." Hearing this, Leonard pressed for answers. "You seem to know quite a lot. Let's see just how much you actually know." Gron continuously questioned Leonard, "Answer me. If your family blood has no secrets, then why is it that not a single branch family is allowed to live outside the borders?" He argued that if their ancestor was legitimate, there would be no need for secrets. He blanked out for a moment upon hearing this. Leonard shot back, refuting his logic. "Are you really that envious of Kadina's wealth and power? Envious enough to abandon a knight's honor just to kidnap a child? If you wanted a fair fight from the start, why use these cheap binding tricks?" He looked down on him with disdain. "Even if Kadina's secrets are exposed, you guys will still be the same. A bunch of border trash with no power and no honor." He closed in, glaring at him with a murderous gaze as he said, "With that pathetic pride of yours, how do you expect to face your ancestors?" Gron still didn't back down, snapping back, "Don't get cocky, brat. How dare you insult the name of Kyrgyz?" Leonard blurted out, "So you're from Kyrgyz?" Gron asked in confusion. "What, you already knew?" He decisively delivered a finishing blow. "When your mind is in chaos, you tend to forget the obvious." Gron could only utter his final words, "Damn it." Leonard notified him beforehand, "You've unsealed your mana circuit, so you're on the verge of death, but before that, you're going to tell me everything you know." A flashback began. Kyrgyz, a small kingdom on the western side of the continent. Centuries ago, it was considered a sacred ground for knights. That was before Kadina's emerged. The Kyrgyz knights suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Kadina's Red Dragon Knight Order. With just that single loss, the world completely forgot about Kyrgyz, and Kadina's became the new sacred ground for knights. Leonard interrogated Gron, "So you attacked Kadina's to reclaim your glory?" Before he could argue, he continued, "And you also plan to dig up the secrets of their bloodline. Coincidentally, I'm quite curious about that myself." Leonard carefully turned his thoughts to other equally dangerous foes, but the main issue was that there were individuals who had reached the transcendent realm on this island. He gripped his hilt tightly and muttered to himself, "I must report this to Mr. Bradley." His blade began to emit a dazzling, ethereal glow. While gathering his power, he thought, "The enemy is the Shadow Clan Knight Order of Kyrgyz." He pointed his blade at Gron, worrying, "Most knights on this island are still trainees. This is way too dangerous." Leonard decisively slashed him, drawing blood. "You claim to be the third phantom, right? Time to play your part in the script." The shift in events accelerated his train of thought. "I don't have time to explain the details. As long as I have proof that Swordmaster-level enemies are on the island, that'll do." He looked at his sword and sighed. "Is it still just a replica?" A dry wind blew past, kicking up dust and blurring everything. "But this will suffice for now." Leonard decided, "I'll be taking these magic artifacts." He hoisted him over his shoulder, preparing to leave. No objections, right? He began packing his steps across the solid ground. Somewhere on the island, clusters of tents were pitched side by side, providing 3 individuals a brief moment of relaxation. Finally got some free time. Yeah, we haven't had a proper rest ever since the deployment. They discussed as they walked along, please let tonight be peaceful. Hey Yan, what the hell is that over there? The three of them fixed their eyes on the exact same spot. Is that a corpse? Gron's corpse was discovered by the three of them. Call Lord Bradley right away, hurry. Bradley looked at the wound on the corpse, realizing something. This is. He pondered deeply, Aura Sword Kai, a technique that only a true sword master can unleash in battle. He turned his attention to the letter beside it. So, that letter was telling the truth. The content of that crumpled scrap of paper seemed to be a confession born of regret for attacking the young apprentices. Bradley muttered to himself, Kyrgyz's Shadow Knight Order has many high-level experts, led even by a commander at the Transcendent Realm, and they are heading straight for the Apprentice Knight's residential area. He gritted his teeth in annoyance and blurted out, if we gather all our forces, it might just be enough to hold them off. But the leader is the real dilemma. Bradley immediately gave the order, Yan, sound the alarm for the entire island. This is an emergency. Yan urgently complied. Understood, sir. The scene here became incredibly tense. Everyone at this moment was extremely frantic, their footsteps following one after another in a swift pace. Leonard saw the situation unfolding exactly as he had anticipated, so everyone is being called to assemble. It seems Lord Bradley understood my intention. Bradley stood before everyone, announcing in a loud, clear voice, listen up, everyone, this is not a drill. An extremely powerful enemy is infiltrating Kalabog Island. Everyone listened intently to his instructions. The information Bradley put forth left everyone deeply anxious. About 30 individuals far surpassing the 8th layer of external force, including at least one knight who has reached the transcendent realm of a sword master. He cautiously reminded them of the danger of the matter. You guys know how powerful a transcendent expert is. Just look at Captain Fabian of the Azure Dragon Knight Order. Consider them as mobile natural disasters. To them, numbers mean absolutely nothing. Bradley put forward 2 courses of action. Now make your choice. One is to open a spatial portal to escape, abandoning this island and waiting for reinforcements. His remaining option sounded incredibly difficult. The other is to stay here and fight the enemy. Make your decision, Apprentice Knights of Kadinas. Leonard remained perfectly calm before the impending storm. A real battle like this would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience for them. Of course, that was on the condition that they survived. Even if they chose to retreat, no one could blame them. The actions and response of the others caught him slightly by surprise. They were completely resolute in their choice. We will fight. Several individuals gripped their sword hilts tightly, declaring with full confidence, we won't be defeated that easily. We've grown stronger too. Let's show them what we can do. He once again saw them in a different light. Gripping a sword to fight when death was near was by no means an easy task. They are knights after all. I underestimated them. Everyone raised their swords high and roared in unison, we will fight. The scene at this moment looked incredibly powerful and full of momentum. Bradley smiled with pure joy upon witnessing their display. He stepped forward to open the massive gates, not forgetting to praise their courage, yet remaining cautious at every step. Very well, I respect your decision, but fighting a transcendent being is a completely different story. We will request reinforcement from Captain Fabian. He reminded everyone, all of you, prepare yourselves mentally. Leonard was heading somewhere at this moment. He stood before the cave he had dug himself, so I'm going to have to use the tunnel I dug right next to my sleeping quarters. He was glad but didn't lose focus, immediately dialing in on the main task. I'm still classified under protection, so they are sending me to evacuate, but that plays perfectly into my hands. Now let's check out these new toys I just borrowed. Leonard extended his finger forward and examined them. Most of them were broken. It seemed only this magic ring was still usable. A minor change occurred, leaving him utterly baffled. The stone on the ring began to glow. He stared at the dissolving stone and deduced that his heart was blocking the mana from entering from the outside. Ah, if that's the case, then I can't use any magical artifacts. Leonard re-examined everything and realized the only useful item was the Shadow Clan's signaling device, which he had already forced the 30th Spectre to reveal how to use, so it would be fine. He told himself in his mind that once he located them, he would set an ambush. If he got exposed, he would use it as bait. Leonard stopped hiding and began to move. The only individual he needed to be wary of was that sword master. His eyes flashed with pure determination. I won't let you guys just do whatever the hell you want. Leonard swiftly moved out toward an open clearing. While running, he silently surmised there's a signal requesting reinforcements. A call like this probably isn't from that transcendent boss. They probably don't know I'm an enemy yet, right? He acted with absolute decisiveness. While they are in a state of chaos, I will make my move to finish it. Just wait, I'm coming right now. At another location that was equally barren, with nothing but dried tree branches, a swirl of purple light was violently tearing up the ground, sending earth and rocks flying everywhere. The individuals in black cloaks were being attacked by something, sustaining significant injuries. You cowardly bastards. Standing before the overwhelming power of the monster, the group of black-cloaked figures could only endure as they cried out, what the hell is wrong with this island? We didn't know our strength wasn't enough to handle a creature like that. That monster possessed a highly bizarre form, and it seemed right on the verge of launching an attack. It hurled a black substance toward those individuals to strike them. Seeing that the situation was turning south, several people immediately retreated, prioritized the mission, ignore it, and fall back quickly. Comrades are advancing toward this direction. Hey, the two of them discussed as they ran. Even though that monster is an A rank, it's all alone. With extra hands helping, we can definitely bring it down. Hayes, one of them blurted out in pure shock, don't tell me that comrade is him. Leonard made a highly unexpected appearance, instantly taking down a few men. He had just sent 3 of their men on their way. Another guy blurted out anxiously, how the hell does he know how to use that thing? Leonard nonchalantly explained to the group of black-cloaked men, I barely threatened him and he spilled absolutely everything. It turns out this organization you guys praise so highly amounts to nothing more than this. Hearing this, they lost their composure in pure rage and lunged toward him. You bastard. Dual-wielding his swords, Leonard stood calmly amidst the battlefield and declared, I will avenge my comrades. The flame-cloaked men rushed forward, burning with fury, but one was instantly dealt with. Shut up. This is what real revenge for my friend looks like, you damned Kadina's fiend. Seeing his comrade brought down so effortlessly, the other guy was frozen in shock, not daring to advance. Leonard reminded the cloaked man, have you guys completely forgotten what you're up against? The man instantly snapped his attention to it, the manticore. That freakish monster was preparing to lunge forward in an attack once again. It charged forward, bursting with pure murderous intent. Leonard stood to the side, observing the lion's body and snake's tail with a completely grotesque face. It truly was the A-rank monster, Manticore. He scanned it briefly and questioned himself. They say you can tell how strong it is just by looking at its face, but does it actually have a human face too? What kind of creature are you? The monster seemed to have heard his words, pausing for a brief moment. Suddenly, it uttered 2 words, human. Its voice filled Leonard with utter astonishment. A monster that actually knows how to speak human tongue. It turned its back toward him and stated, if I fight you, I will die. Seeing its wariness, he also marveled. It can actually read my exact strength. Impressive. The monster dropped a highly cryptic line, but I won't die that easily. As long as I buy enough time, he will arrive. Leonard was also curious as to who that was. The monster provided a highly unexpected piece of information, someone far stronger than I am. Leonard looked at the men collapsed on the ground and deduced, the leader, it seems they call him the 5th Spectre. He alone is more terrifying than the entirety of the forces that just landed on this island combined. He immediately thought of the Swordmaster realm. With his current realm, he couldn't possibly fight him head-on. Leonard examined the situation cautiously. If this monster was telling the truth, staying here would be extremely dangerous, yet he still questioned it openly. Do you really think I'm going to believe the words of a monster? The monster brought its glowing red eyes close to him and provoked, if you're not afraid to die, then bring it on. He turned his back, sheathing one of his swords as he prepared to leave. Talking big, aren't we? I'll spare you this once, don't expect a second time. Leonard walked away slowly, and that monster instantly let out a mighty roar, fool. Leonard immediately whipped around to assess the situation, just as I thought. He swiftly channeled his power, hurling his sword, which was enveloped in a bright blue energy, straight at the monster. His strike packed immense power, hitting it squarely in the head on the very first shot. The freakish monster took the full force of his previous blow. Did you know beforehand? It growled and wailed while simultaneously striking back without fail. That hurts so much. Leonard unleashed a dual sword strike, hacking a spray of blood from the monster. The second shot hit its lung, allowing him to effortlessly strike it and move away. The third shot pierced straight through its heart. Just as you said, I can't afford to linger here for long. I'm leaving. The light radiating from the stone filled him with utter amazement. He immediately locked his eyes onto the stone's glow. Leonard decisively cast the necklace away. He's here. A highly camouflaged cloaked man was charging toward the location, slamming hard onto the ground with immense force upon landing. The cloaked man bent down, picking up the stone that was still radiating a blue light, and he blurted out with deep regret, I arrived too late. If I had been just a moment earlier, perhaps we would have made history together. He swung his sword with absolute decisiveness. Who's there? His strike unleashed a surging green aura. Leonard, currently hiding behind a boulder on this side, cautiously and swiftly retreated. He could actually sense my presence from that distance. Staying here means certain death. He instantly pulled out every hidden trick to make his escape. I never expected the day would come where my knack for digging tunnels would save my life. I need to get as far away from this guy as possible. The man stood stationary, scanning the surroundings before telling himself, was it just my imagination? That's highly unlike me. He figured that the mission this time had veered completely off course. His instincts must be acting up. He departed from this place, completely ignoring the scattered weapons and swords left behind. Rest in peace. Your sacrifices will not be in vain. Good night. He muttered, our objective has been fully accomplished. A hand reached up from beneath the ground, and Leonard leaped right out. A wounded soldier leaning against a tree trunk spotted him and asked, who the hell are you? Kadina's knight, you're far too late. Despite being gravely injured, the man also realized an apprentice. The knight implored him to deliver a message. As you can see, I won't last much longer. Report back to the other knights. A single sword master wiped out 43 mid-level knights in the blink of an eye. The knight recounted the event, adding that 8 apprentice knights were currently out on patrol. The information he received caught him completely off guard. They've already been captured by them. Leonard stood surveying the surroundings, so they've been taken away. He thought to himself, how on earth did they escort the hostages through here and manage to escape outside? He reconsidered the entire situation. Their objective was to collect test subjects, so they would definitely want the hostages alive and transported safely. If that was truly the case, there was only one single method I know of that is feasible. Mass teleportation, a type of magic that transports multiple people simultaneously to a location. Leonard looked toward the distance and reminded himself, I need to hurry. They've already achieved their goal. He deduced their escape path. To move that many people at once, they would need an extremely vast space, meaning I can guess exactly where they are aiming for. Leonard pressed the knight for more information. Is Lord Bradley pursuing them? The knight pushed through his exhaustion to help him. He has already deployed forces to scour this entire sector. He noted, I see. In that case, you just stay here and rest for a bit. His words left the knight completely baffled. Rest? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Leonard instantly struck, knocking the knight unconscious. Leonard bluntly criticized, your guess is completely wide of the mark, Lord Bradley. He shouldered the unconscious knight while assessing the situation. I have to find a way to let him know the truth. At this rate, Kadina's will be entirely crushed, but advice coming from an apprentice carries absolutely no weight. He formulated his plan of action. I'll just have to personally lure Lord Bradley to that spot myself. Over on this side, Bradley was leading his unit, scouring every corner. He cursed as he marched, so they've completely vanished. Cowardly scum, discarding the very pride of a knight. Suddenly he bellowed out, who goes there? The sudden appearance instantly caused the unit to drop into a defensive stance, ready to counterattack. Bradley deduced, could that footwork be a remnant of Kurgis? Leonard had utilized the gear from those men to disguise himself, and he began to move. Leonard easily glided past their group, while Bradley desperately commanded his men to give chase. Why are you all standing there like idiots? Eliminate that intruder immediately. Seeing them playing right into his hands, he began his move. Perfect, just keep chasing me. He tracked them closely as he moved. A barrage of swords lunged toward his position. Don't you dare think you can escape. Leonard nonchalantly glided right along the tips of their blades. He maneuvered flawlessly as if he were on solid ground. He leaped from one side to the other, darting forward, before touching down lightly back onto the ground. Bradley remained hot on his heels, lunging forward with his sharp blade. Kurgis' men are remarkably agile, aren't they? Leonard silently rejoiced. Excellent, luring them all the way here is a complete success. He effortlessly evaded his powerful strike. You bastard, how dare you? His actions left him utterly bewildered. He recognized the shoreline. He had been so caught up in the chase that he hadn't even realized they had arrived here. Standing behind him, Leonard silently rooted for him. Don't you dare die on me, Lord Bradley. He noted in his mind that the true enemy was right on the verge of showing themselves. Another unfamiliar suit of armor materialized nearby. The cloaked man advanced, completely radiating intense murderous intent, so someone actually managed to crawl all the way out here. There's no need to be in such a hurry to throw away your life, Hound of Kadina's. The two of them began trading barbs, so you're the one behind this entire mess. This is merely the opening step of a glorious, grand design. Bradley scoffed in disdain. Kidnapping children is what you call a grand design. You're not leaving this island alive. If you have any sense left, surrender now. The man diffused the tension calmly. Let's not be so hasty. The leader smirked and stated, do you honestly think we made landfall here without any sort of plan? He raised his hand high, generating an abrupt surge of aura as he declared, Dong deal etter 1E1C. Your side has already lost for cert. Bradley instantly recognized it and made his move. Is that mass teleportation magic? Don't even dream about it. The leader showed no hesitation, full of confidence. It will take another 15 minutes to complete. In the meantime, I shall personally entertain you to pass the time. The two of them plunged into a head-on duel. Struggle all you want. Bradley seemed to be having a highly difficult time holding his ground against the leader's overwhelming power. Watching from above, Leonard silently prayed, just hold out a little bit longer, Lord Bradley. He told himself, I will bring the knights back. At another gathering point, a magic circle flared to life. This seemed to be the camp of the group that had been kidnapping the trainees, and Leonard had successfully blended into their crowd. He constantly kept an eye on his surroundings, thinking to himself that even though he had completely erased his presence, the leader didn't even glance his way, and since they were too overly focused on the battle, they were absolutely riddled with openings. With that being the case, he made his way inside to where the captives were being held. Heavy chains bound the prisoners, radiating a highly eerie magical aura. Even so, it was not enough to withstand the raw sharpness of Leonard's blade. The chains were completely sliced apart, making him wonder for a split second, did I miss my strike? Once freed, the captives looked at him with sheer doubt, questioning, aren't you guys with the Kurji's faction? Why are you saving us? Leonard immediately admonished them, I don't owe you an explanation and we don't have time, get out of here right now. The prisoners all fixed their eyes on him, as he directed his attention toward them. Even with danger closing in, all the knights still maintained their proper etiquette, stating, we are truly grateful to you. The group quickly made their escape, leaving him completely alone inside the tent as he muttered, good. With that, the hostage situation was settled. Leonard smiled, nodding that for the remaining task. He nonchalantly gripped his twin swords and stepped back outside. He ruthlessly unleashed his strikes on the men outside. They failed to react in time and were cleanly taken down by him as he muttered, time to clean up the trash. He leisurely dealt with every single one of them. Meanwhile, on the other side, Bradley had fallen into a severe disadvantage, having lost one of his arms. The main boss casually tossed out, that wasn't quite satisfying enough, but I guess it works as a warm-up. He groaned in intense pain, trying to staunch the bleeding from his wound. Damn it. The boss confidently asserted, the game ends here. Soon, Kurji's will stand at the absolute peak of the way of the sword once more. He suddenly realized something, I feel it, the one who ruined our plans is coming this way. The leader immediately dashed off, leaving Bradley behind. Leonard also detected the highly unusual presence approaching. The man plummeted down with such raw force that it shattered the ground beneath him. He instantly got into a defensive stance before the fifth phantom. The fifth phantom of Kurji scoffed in irritation, what a disappointment. To think the one who killed my men and obstructed our grand cause is just a mere brat. To honor my fallen comrades, I'll send you to your grave right here. He pointed his blade toward him with pure murderous intent. However, glancing across the battlefield littered with teleportation circles, the commander was completely horrified to find that his subordinates had all been wiped out. Completely disoriented, the invader tried to process the information, unable to comprehend how a mere kid could single-handedly clear the entire base like that. Blinded by sheer rage, he lost all control and shrieked frantically over the miserable defeat of his brothers-in-arms. He unleashed a devastating slash at the protagonist, swearing to chop the Kadina's demon into 1,000 pieces. Evading the move by a hair's breadth, the young boy admitted to himself that a swordmaster's level was truly absurd, and he would have to use his trump card much earlier than anticipated. While the enemy plummeted from midair, screaming for his life, Leonard concentrated his mana to materialize a blade of pure aura energy. The leader recoiled in pure terror, unable to comprehend how a standard trainee could possibly execute such an advanced technique. Holding his glowing blade, the hero coldly shot back, telling him that the secret behind his skill was none of his business. In the midst of another massive clash between the two, Leonard calculated that he could only maintain this state for 3 minutes and needed to end this immediately. Having completely lost his mind, the villain attacked relentlessly, dropping death threats after every single brutal strike. Blocking the thrusts with extreme composure, the protagonist realized his foe had lost all reason, making the fight much easier to control. Tactically opening up some distance, he intentionally left a vulnerability, making the swordmaster think he had found the perfect chance to counterattack. Analyzing the enemy's patterns, he decided to close the gap bit by bit while agilely dodging the heavy strikes. Right at that moment, the vicious leader cackled that he had trapped his target, leaving him completely shocked by this hidden ruse. Drawing a hidden claw from his gauntlet, the criminal revealed that the weapon was laced with a horrific poison, where a single drop was lethal. He mocked him, explaining that the toxin would reach his heart in seconds and completely destroy his magic flow. Landing some distance away after sustaining a minor scratch, the hero jeered, "Thanks for explaining your technique." While the swordmaster was gloating in victory, a surge of fierce green energy inside the young man's body completely neutralized the invading toxin without leaving a single trace. Seeing his opponent completely unharmed, the operative panicked, demanding to know why his lethal poison had absolutely no effect. The reincarnated youth wondered if his unique heart nullified poisons along with curses, while still maintaining his threatening posture. Capitalizing on his opponent's desperation, the protagonist attacked fiercely and reiterated that his secrets weren't meant for trash like him. Unable to withstand the trainee's overwhelming power, the leader was driven back, feeling the crushing impact of the blow. Backed into a corner, the villain summoned massive magical serpents that completely swallowed up the entire scene. He leaped high into the air, unleashing a chaotic spell in a desperate bid to crush him from a distance. Evading the deadly vines with total ease, he wondered if the swordmaster had completely lost control over his own technique. Realizing the sheer volume of attacks was blocking the main path, the hero understood that sneaking up behind him had become impossible. Refusing to back down from the danger, the swordsman charged straight into the chaos, swearing to shatter that barrier with pure, raw power. Spinning his blade into a destructive green vortex, he smashed the magical serpent's head into 1,000 pieces. Hit by the massive shockwave, the leader staggered back, dragging his boots across the ground to keep from collapsing. With his pride utterly shattered, the swordmaster cursed the troublesome brat for humiliating a warrior of his caliber. Hiding amidst the massive tangle of chaotic vines, the criminal swore to drag the brat down to hell with him at all costs. Responding to the caster's sheer hatred, the green energy tentacles began whipping through the air like mad. Charging toward his foe, the hero noticed the operative was pushing his own mana to its absolute limit in a reckless gamble. Using the green branches as stepping stones, he surged forward, declaring that all that flashy magic was nothing more than a cheap distraction. In a swift dash, he sliced through the spells along his path, focusing entirely on staying calm to finish his opponent quickly. Channeling all his remaining energy into his sword, the protagonist executed precise slashes to completely clear his line of sight. He shattered the final layers of his opponent's defensive technique without slowing his powerful advance through the air. Spotting the swordmaster's unprotected body right ahead, the youth rejoiced as his ultimate target was now in perfect firing range. He lunged like a bullet, driving a fierce thrust straight toward the villain's chest. To the hero's surprise, a magic device hidden inside the armor activated, instantly deploying a shocking barrier. The defensive blast violently hurled him backward while he tried to process the fact that the coward still had another trick up his sleeve. Capitalizing on that sudden moment of daze, the leader grabbed the trainee's collar, mocking the young hero for dropping his guard at the very last second. He asked if he thought he was just blindly throwing magic, revealing that he had been waiting for him to close in from the very start. Binding his opponent tightly with a vicious stream of black-crimson aura, the villain warned that the brat's luck had run out and declared game over. However, Fabian forced himself up from behind, radiating a fierce crimson magic aura as he warned that it wasn't going down like that. In the blink of an eye, the veteran unleashed a massive slash right at the assassin. Utterly horrified, the leader panicked, unable to comprehend who had unleashed that strike out of thin air. The slash struck the invader squarely in the back, serving as retribution for the fallen soldiers. Coughing violently, the leader asked if the teenager truly wanted to take him down badly enough to willingly act as bait. He confirmed that the enemy was so focused on him that he failed to notice the mission commander closing in, before landing lightly on the battlefield. The instructor apologized for being late. He praised his student's insane growth in such a short time and thanked him for saving his comrade. As the other knights reached the area, the veteran stated he had a few questions to ask. But the protagonist cut him off immediately, asking if they could talk after he got some sleep. Understanding the boy's sheer exhaustion, the superior agreed and told him to get some rest. Right after that, the commander's face shifted into a look of absolute gravity. Focusing on the invader bound by magic chains, he vowed to start by cleaning up this piece of trash. Even in defeat, the leader muttered that this was far from over. Hearing the threat, the commander realized that something was deeply amiss. Wasting no time, the veteran attacked with full force, declaring that everything would end right here. Right at that moment, the assassin's body collapsed while a strange surge of energy blasted the protagonist backward. Stunned by this trick, the instructor finally understood who the real target had been from the very beginning. Snaring the trainee with his magical form, the villain swore to drag the brat along with him to his very last breath. A massive pillar of light engulfed both of them in a flash of teleportation magic. The moment the light faded, the knight stood frozen in shock at the hero's sudden disappearance from the battlefield. Back at the camp, one of the soldiers blurted out in sheer disbelief that the trainee had actually been taken by the enemy. Analyzing the magic circle on the ground, the commander concluded that the imperfect spell had hurled them into a completely unknown location. Frustrated by the turn of events, the veteran blamed himself for letting his guard down because he thought he was the target. Trying to calm his superior, the subordinate reminded him that no one could have anticipated the primary target was the young trainee. The soldier deduced that the enemy faction saw an immense threat in the kid, enough to willingly discard their own ideals just to capture him. Recalling Leonard's skills, the knight admitted he had never seen such a terrifying growth rate in history. Commenting on the rookies, he pointed out that the boy's level far surpassed the normal standard of an apprentice. Looking toward the horizon, the warrior wagered that a new legend was about to be written by the Cadina's family. Resolved to fix the issue, the commander agreed to call for reinforcements immediately and handed command over to his comrade. With a resolute gaze, the veteran declared that they must find the trainee at all costs. Meanwhile, the hero was drifting unconscious on a piece of debris in the middle of the vast ocean. Slowly coming to, the drifter spotted a massive structure closing in across the water. Smelling the ocean air and feeling the constant rocking, the youth finally realized he was being rescued by a ship. Suddenly, a red-haired girl burst through the door, cheering that the patient was awake. With a demanding posture, she warned that she had 1,000 questions and required answers in exchange for saving his life. Instantly shifting her mood, the captain introduced herself as Francis and asked the boy's name in a friendly manner. Still processing the unusual situation, the swordsman just quietly observed the young woman extending her hand to him. Shaking his savior's hand, he politely introduced himself and mentioned his home empire. Shocked by that information, the girl wondered how he had ended up so far away from home. Shifting his gaze bashfully, the protagonist summarized the whole mess by stating it was just an accident. Recalling the ambush by the swordmaster, he explained he had been sucked into a spatial spell and lost consciousness shortly after. Impressed that he survived the spell, the captain rapidly deduced that the youth was part of the terrifying Kadina's family. The brown-haired assistant analyzed his trained physique and agreed that this was the only logical explanation for his strength. Leonard confirmed their suspicions without hesitation, slightly surprised to realize his family's reputation had crossed the ocean. Worried about the consequences, the assistant whispered, advising her boss to keep her distance to avoid trouble. Right at that moment, a crew member burst into the room in pure panic, begging the leader to head to the city harbor. With his forehead dripping blood, the sailor tried to warn them that the ship was under attack by a dangerous gang of thugs. On the main deck, an arrogant blonde man was smashing everything in his path, leading a violent gang. Angered by the cowardice, the brown-haired girl drew her weapon, realizing the enemy had struck on a vulnerable day. The captain apologized for the mess while the protagonist had already left his bed, completely ready for action. Before running off, the red-haired girl informed him that her guest was free to leave as soon as he felt better. Alone in the room, the youth looked at his gear and clothes neatly folded in the corner. He recalled asking her real reason for saving a total stranger at sea. In his memory, the young woman replied simply that she never abandons anyone who needs a helping hand. Seeing the leader charge into an unequal battle, Leonard thought to himself that she was the one who needed help the most right now. At the harbor, the invading group completely surrounded the captain's ship, waiting for their boss's orders. Approaching with steady steps, the arrogant leader mocked the red-haired girl's appearance for the confrontation. Gripping their swords, the two defenders faced their opponent, demanding the reason for this uninvited visit. Irritated by the bold retort, the blonde man flashed a sly smirk, trying to contain his own rising anger. Losing his patience, the thug told the assistant to shut up and threatened to crush anyone who drew a weapon against him. Gritting her teeth in hatred, the brown-haired girl muttered that bastard's name, holding back her urge to attack on the spot. Placing her hand in front of her ally, the captain demanded that her opponent dismiss his lackeys so they could settle this one-on-one. Staring at the red-haired girl from up close, the jerk told her to drop the stubborn act and hand over ownership of the ship immediately. Pointing at the majestic ship, he mocked her, saying that royal legacy was simply rotting away in her hands. Holding her ground, the leader shot back at the insult, reminding him that her father's passing didn't make him the master of everything. Making a choice clear as crystal, the girl told the invader to beat it because she would never surrender her precious ship. Drawing his blade menacingly, the villain warned her to sell the ship right now before he completely lost his patience. Before the thug could finish his threat, someone plummeted from midair, brutally slamming one of his lackeys into the ground. Dusting off his clothes, the hero calmly stood up and asked permission to take down the enemy leader first. Completely shocked by the swordsman's brutal entrance, the girls and the thugs stared at the scene, unable to comprehend what was happening. Looking at the wreckage, the gang leader panicked, telling his lackey to pick up his severed arm while cursing the captain in pure rage. Thoroughly infuriated by the unexpected turn of events, the invader lost all control. Blaming the girls, he ordered his men to wipe everyone out and immediately demanded to know what the hero had done to his brother. Before the enemy could react, Leonard charged in, slicing through the lackeys with absolute ease. Right after that, the swordsman sheathed his blade in a blindingly fast motion. Capitalizing on the opening, the protagonist landed a direct blow squarely on the arrogant leader's face. With a violent impact, the bastard fell unconscious to the ground right in front of Francis and her assistant. Impressed by his speed, the brown-haired girl remarked that the thug didn't even stand a chance, while the captain recognized the true power of the Kadina's family. Stepping on his fallen foe's back, the hero noted that the guy had actually managed to reattach his own arm. Standing by the body, the youth turned to the girls and asked what they should do with the defeated man. However, both remained completely silent, merely processing the utter absurdity of what had just unfolded. Noticing his savior's hesitation, the trainee found the reaction strange and asked if something was wrong. Letting out a heavy sigh, Francis admitted that the piece of trash on the ground was the illegitimate son of the most powerful man in Atlantis. With a dead serious face, she began explaining how things worked in this place. The captain revealed that the Atlantis Maritime Alliance was governed by a powerful council ruling over all those seas. The red-haired girl detailed that the invader's father was Pablo L. Orlando Peterson, one of the top 5 tycoons on the entire council. Analyzing the information, the reincarnated youth realized he had stepped into a much bigger mess than imagined and thought about a way out. Afterward, he called the captain by her name, catching her attention instantly. Very bluntly, the swordsman informed her that he would serve as her bodyguard for a while. Observing the glowing ship, the protagonist planned internally that he would stay to resolve the issues and gather some useful information. Upon hearing the words from Francis, Leonard showed clear surprise, then smiled and replied, "I'll be your bodyguard." Francis smiled gently, extending her hand toward him. "Of course, you are heartily welcome." The two shook hands and Francis continued, "I highly look forward to working with you." Leonard nodded slightly. "The pleasure is mine, Francis." Right after that, Leonard's gaze shifted to the man he had just knocked out. "By the way, what should we do with that guy? We need to lock him up first." Francis glanced at the guy indifferently. "As long as you don't kill him, it's fine. Even his own biological father has already given up on him, so he'll turn a blind eye as long as his son's honor remains intact." "That's a relief then." Leonard let out a sigh of relief. Without wasting any more time, Francis stepped forward gracefully. "Now you can follow me without any worries. There's a place I need to go, and I'll be counting on you for protection." Leonard nodded, but then hesitated slightly. "So should I call you Captain?" Francis burst into a soft laugh, her voice completely charming. "If you're comfortable with it, just call me Fran." Leonard tried calling her Fran. Right at that exact second, Francis whipped around, her face filled with pure, absolute joy. "Could you say that one more time?" This scene was so sweet and adorable that fangirls would definitely be fangirling hard. Meanwhile, the bodyguard standing beside Francis muttered softly, "My lady." Before long, a colossal wave of water surged upward, enveloping the entire group within a shimmering blue water screen, moving along the street as though magic had come to life. Leonard marveled in pure awe. "It's beautiful. I've never seen anything like this back in Arcadia." Francis explained as they walked, "This is a commercial city. They value appearances above everything else. It's all a show, but that's exactly why countless adventurers flock here." They approached a massive building, its luxurious architecture resembling a palace more than an office. Francis pointed, "This is Bermuda, the administrative office for the adventurer parties belonging to Atlantis." After the lady captain presented her badge, a confirmation voice echoed, "B07 Aquamarine, Captain Francis Lelvanocianes. Documents verified. I will escort you to Zephyrus Hall." Zephyrus Hall was a resting area reserved exclusively for B-rank parties. The moment he stepped inside, Leonard's eyes widened at the sheer luxury. Glossy crystal walls, flowing decorative streams, and chandeliers glittering with blue light. The entire space radiated wealth and power. "This is just B-rank and it's already this fancy. Aquamarine is way bigger than I imagined." While he was observing, a female staff member named Clara approached with a professional smile. "Hello, I am Clara, the attendant in charge of Zephyrus Hall. I will assist you with the registration procedures to join the adventurer party." Once Leonard joined, Aquamarine would officially have the required 3 members. She asked Leonard about his specialty to record the party's combat capabilities. But right at that moment, a man sitting nearby scoffed. "Why bother asking, Clara? It's completely obvious he's just the young lady's toy." The air instantly turned thick with tension. Leonard calmly turned to Francis. "Fran, can I just handle him right now?" Francis remained serene. "No need, this sort of thing happens all the time." Despite that, the guy continued to provoke. "You joined this 2-person party just to make up the numbers, didn't you?" Yet in the blink of an eye, Leonard materialized right in front of his face, ripping away his sword and pressing the blade directly against the guy's neck. The entire hall fell dead silent. Leonard stared straight into his opponent's panicked eyes, his voice icy cold. "Am I qualified enough to judge my capabilities now?" Seeing this, Clara stammered out, "Ah, yes, that should be plenty. By the way, where do you come from?" Over on this side, Leonard listened and fell deep into thought about his hometown. Looking at Marion's reaction, it was definitely best not to mention Arcadia. But refusing to answer would look highly suspicious. Thinking it through, he took a step forward and replied, "I come from the kingdom of Kyrgyz." Saying this, a trace of irritation welled up inside him because that was the only place he could think of. Very quickly, Clara finished registering their information. "Your registration into the Aquamarine party is complete." After the procedures were finished, Francis tried to hold it back but couldn't hide her radiant expression, her eyes sparkling. "Our party finally has a new member, Tilda." Leonard turned to remind her, "Captain, our business here is done." Francis startled and immediately regained her serious captain posture, her voice straining to sound authoritative. "Good. Now you're officially a member of Aquamarine, Leonard. Therefore, just rest up and relax today. Aren't you going to look around the area? You look as though you're highly curious about a lot of things. I'll be counting on you from now on. Hearing her words, Leonard let out a faint smile and requested, if that's the case, could I trouble you with a favor? The next scene displayed Leonard standing before the doorway of a house at the end of the day. A female voice echoed from inside, you must be Leonard, right? Fran told me all about you. Come on in. Leonard gently opened the door, stepping inside as he spoke politely. Thank you. Excuse me. The moment he entered, the woman sitting inside scanned him thoroughly from head to toe. You don't look like a mage at all. And yet you want to learn magic. Leonard was caught slightly off guard by the atmosphere in the room. Numerous objects were floating gently in midair as though gravity completely ceased to exist. The woman leaned back calmly and said, now, tell me everything. Leonard began to explain his situation in great detail. After listening silently, the woman nodded slowly. So that's how it is, I understand. Yes, Leonard replied seriously. Ever since I was swallowed by spatial magic, I realized I needed a way to deal with it. I possess almost zero knowledge or understanding of magic. The woman continued to stare at him intently as if trying to read his true motives. After a moment of silence, she finally spoke up, I see. Her voice was serene. You don't just want to become a mere magic swordsman. She was none other than Esther, a fourth circle mage of the Atlantis Magic Tower. Esther looked directly at Leonard and explained calmly, the best way to get familiar with magic is to have direct contact with it. I know a method that even a swordsman can easily grasp. She held up a small, glowing spirit crystal stone in her hand and continued, Aura users typically increase their mana by absorbing spirit crystals, correct? This method works on the exact same principle. We will carve a magic circuit onto the crystal to allow your body to gradually adapt to magic energy. Leonard knit his brows slightly, but I don't really want to cast magic. Don't worry, Esther replied instantly. Unless you have a highly unique constitution, this is the swiftest and safest way. She let out a soft sigh and added in a more familiar tone, furthermore, this is also my responsibility now. As a member of Aquamarine, I must guide my junior properly. Otherwise, that little girl will come rushing in here screaming up a storm. At first, Leonard only felt a warm sensation spreading throughout his entire body. But gradually, his condition began to deteriorate. His breathing grew heavy, his muscles locked up, and veins bulged visibly on his arms as the magic circuits reacted violently within. Esther instantly realized something was wrong. Her serene expression vanished as she stared at him intently. What? She muttered in utter bewilderment. An ordinary person should be able to absorb this circuit with absolute ease. Her eyes narrowed as a highly troubling thought surfaced. Could it be due to this constitution? In the very next split second, Leonard abruptly let out a horrific scream. A colossal surge of energy erupted violently from his body. It was far more powerful than anything Esther had anticipated. The terrifying force of that energy wave generated a shockwave that swept across the entire room, striking Esther with pure panic. She was completely dumbfounded, muttering that there was no way this reaction could be this overwhelmingly powerful. Watching Leonard struggle to regain his composure, Esther anxiously checked on him, asking if he was all right. Leonard panted heavily but still asserted that he was fine, leaving Esther even more incredulous. But deep down, he had just gained a massive realization regarding his Cardinal bloodline. His heart had instinctively rewritten the magic circuit. It's as though the original version was completely wrong from the start. He explained and decided to demonstrate it for his senior. With staggering ease, Leonard cast the basic spell Magic Missile. Esther stood rooted to the spot, her mind unable to process the sight unfolding directly before her eyes. Leonard calmly stated that he found the original spell highly inefficient and wasteful, so he had reinterpreted it. Esther was entirely stunned. Altering the fundamental structure of a spell was something even she, a fourth circle mage, couldn't pull off, yet Leonard had just fired off 5 missiles simultaneously. Sensing a newfound confidence in his understanding, Leonard put forth a bold request. He asked for permission to examine Esther's magic circuits, asserting that he could identify the areas that required improvement. The scene shifted to the majestic Atlantis Magic Tower, the absolute epicenter of the city's magic. Inside, a man was completely surrounded by a swirling vortex of floating books and ancient texts. He let out a sigh, clearly highly irritated at being disturbed while he was busy. He was none other than the Grand Elder of the Atlantis Magic Tower, the legendary 7th Circle Mage, Jack Russell. Esther greeted her master respectfully, while Leonard introduced himself as a member of Aquamarine. Jack cut them off, asking directly why an outsider had appeared here. With a proud smile, Esther declared that she had broken through her limits and advanced to the 5th Circle. Jack demanded in pure shock to know the reason behind her sudden breakthrough after being stuck for so many years. Instead of launching into a lengthy explanation, Esther told her master to see for himself. She cast a standard fireball, but with a subtle flick of her wrist, she instantly transformed that fireball into a spinning fire disc. She explained that she could now alter the shape of magic, compressing and spinning it to maximize its destructive power. Next, Esther revealed the person who had helped her break through was Leonard. He had corrected her circuits and given her advice. However, her control still wasn't completely flawless. She accidentally lost control and hurled the spinning fire disc straight toward her master. Jack's eyes widened. He realized this young kid had touched upon the realm of shape-shifting, a realm usually achieved only by sixth circle mages. With a simple snap of his fingers, Jack effortlessly extinguished the out-of-control fire disc completely. He muttered, "This development is far more fascinating than I imagined." Jack acknowledged Leonard's monstrous talent for breaking past magic limitations without even intending to. He told Esther that she owed Leonard a lifelong debt that she could never possibly repay. Carrying a completely newfound respect, the Grand Elder turned to Leonard and put forth a highly unbelievable offer, inviting him to become his personal disciple, an opportunity that any mage would absolutely kill for. But Leonard didn't hesitate for a single second. He declined politely but firmly, stating that he had chosen the path of swordsmanship. Jack was slightly disappointed. But to display his gratitude, he granted Leonard complete freedom to enter and leave the tower, utilizing every resource and piece of knowledge without limits. He also promised to maintain excellent relations between the Magic Tower and the Aquamarine Adventure Party. Leonard bowed slightly, a smirk playing on his lips as he gladly accepted the highly generous offer. Having connected with such a powerful force, Leonard's future in Atlantis looked brighter than ever before. Returning to Zephyrus Hall, Frances listened to Leonard's report with a face of pure disbelief. She couldn't believe he had actually met the Grand Elder of the Magic Tower himself. When Leonard confirmed Jack promised to maintain excellent relations, Frances erupted with pure joy, cheering and shouting in excitement because they had just connected with an organization on par with Bermuda and the Alliance Council. Afterward, Leonard noticed the list sitting on the table. Frances explained, "These are the talents I'm looking to recruit for my guild. If we want to expand our territory, adding new members is an absolute must. Without Aquamarine backing us, climbing to B rank would be a brutal struggle, no joke." Hearing her words, Leonard asked with a trace of surprise, "The more high-profile the new members are, the better it is for us, right?" Facing his question, Fran replied flustered, "Yes, of course that's the case." Then she shifted her gaze ahead and added, "Look, that person over there seems to be quite capable." Right at that moment, his gaze was grabbed by a commotion in the corner of the hall. A man was pinned tightly to a pillar by an arrow, screaming curses at a silver-haired half-elf girl. The guy even hurled racial slurs at the one-eyed Ninian. She didn't say much, immediately releasing the arrow held in her hand. The arrow slammed right next to his body, causing his face to turn completely pale with fright. Seeing this, Ninian turned around to leave but didn't forget to drop a warning. "Consider yourself extremely lucky that you crossed paths with me here, you absolute piece of trash." However, at that exact moment, another mocking voice rang out, "Hold on a minute, your actions are a bit too violent, Ninian. If you accidentally get fined, can that measly salary of yours even cover it? Stop being so stubborn. Just behave and join Santa Maria to save yourself the trouble. The ransom money for your sister isn't cheap at all, is it?" In response to those words, Leonard's voice boomed across the space. "You guys are the ones who are completely blowing things out of proportion here." With that, he released his grip, unleashing a terrifying pressure of wind that caused everyone's hair to blow wildly. Witnessing this display, Ninian's face filled with pure astonishment as she uttered, Who the hell is that?" Leonard stepped forward to introduce himself. "My name is Leonard, a member of the Aquamarine Guild." Over on this side, Marion turned to thank Clara for lending her the bow, while the guild master Fran was caught slightly by surprise that Leonard actually knew archery. Ignoring them, the main character began to extend his invitation. "Your name is Ninian, correct? Why don't you come join our carriage? From what I see, this offer won't disadvantage you in the slightest. I will provide you with benefits fully befitting your capabilities." Facing this offer, Ninian didn't rush to agree, silently calculating the previous move. It was on a completely different level compared to her archery skills that merely mimicked spirit arts. If only I could learn that move. Over on this side, the background crowd began to jeer, "Befitting benefits my foot. I overheard that the number 6 guild is right on the brink of bankruptcy. You should think logically and look at the bigger picture. Nobody is going to rescue you when that ship sinks." Before leaving, the bald guy tossed out a few more contemptuous words. "It's nothing like that ragged guild with zero future. The captain of Santa Maria is none other than the illustrious Lord himself." Yet, before he could even finish his sentence, another warning voice boomed out, "Shut your filthy mouth right now. I don't need to waste words introducing myself. Everyone in this sector knows our reputation perfectly well." This massive man was the captain of the Santa Maria crew, Christopher Conrad. While his lackeys were bowing, he subtly glanced toward Leonard and spoke with deep implication. "Though, how could a complete nobody B rank like you possibly understand?" Facing his appearance, Leonard didn't display a single trace of disdain. This guy looked like a brawler, but in reality, he had already touched the threshold of the extraordinary realm. If I have to face him head-on right now, I am definitely at a disadvantage. Yet a long-range archer like Ninian is the ultimate golden key in naval battles. I absolutely cannot let an exceptional talent like her fall into the hands of anyone else. Even if I have to draw my sword and engage in a death match in the arena, I will drag her into my guild without fail. Memories flooded back as the two sisters clasped each other's hands tightly, refusing to let go. Ninian smiled, recalling her sister Vivian's words that their mother said they would always be good sisters. Unlike her sister, Vivian was a spirit mage with a rare natural talent. But no matter what, the girl was family, and Ninian's only support. Then tragedy struck, happiness shattered in an instant as Ninian fell into a pool of blood. Before passing out, she only had time to see the silhouette of a stranger muttering that his sister had sent a distress signal. Reality surfaced, the thug Conrad held a contract, looking at Ninian with a triumphant expression. Ninian knelt, begging him to return her sister and offering to do anything, only to be met with mockery. He glared and barked at her, casting her aside like trash because of her mixed blood. Ninian clenched her powerless fists, blaming herself for being too weak to save her sister. At that moment, a decisive footstep advanced, and a challenge was issued directly at the Santa Maria group. Leonard appeared, stipulating that the wager for the bet would be Vivian's freedom. Seeing this, the girl Esther panicked and ran forward to block his reckless move. Fran, standing nearby, couldn't help but worry, urging Esther to do something quickly. Leonard remained calm, viewing it as a good opportunity to recruit talent. He turned to his teammates, his determined gaze seeming to tell them to trust him. Seeing that look, Fran could only sigh and let him decide for himself. Leonard grabbed Ninian's wrist, hauling her up out of the mire of despair. Conrad curled his lip in a sneer, thinking the kid was just putting on a show out of fear. He flew into a rage, seizing Leonard by the collar and lifting him up, insulted by a rookie. He demanded to know what Leonard had to stake for the life of a valuable elf spirit mage. Fran declared loudly she would use ownership of Aquamarine in exchange for Santa Maria's A-rank exploration rights. Hearing Aquamarine, Conrad fell silent for a moment to calculate the profit of this deal. He agreed immediately but added one condition. The duelist must be an official member of Aquamarine. He glowered threateningly, implying there would be no hearing of a champion to fight in his place. Leonard showed no fear. He agreed at once to the one-on-one duel. Leonard turned his back and left, promising to meet him on the upcoming day of the duel. In the massive Atlantis Mage Tower, a tense discussion was underway. Esther slammed the table in anger, still unable to believe Leonard would dare accept that challenge. She emphasized that Conrad was an A-rank spellblade, not some mediocre opponent. Fran sipped his tea and admitted that the man was indeed both perverse and hateful. By Esther's calculations, even if she and Ninian teamed up, they wouldn't have even a fraction of a chance to win. Ninian bowed her head in apology for dragging everyone into this, but Esther said there was no turning back now. Suddenly, a brilliant blue energy began to surge from Leonard's sword. A powerful blade aura enveloped the sword, causing everyone in the room to hold their breath. Fran was stunned into silence, his eyes wide with astonishment. Esther was equally shocked when she realized this was the aura blade, the caliber of a true swordmaster. Leonard casually explained that he simply never had a reason before to show his true strength. With the sword blazing in his hand, he confidently asserted that Conrad was no match for him. Seeing that power, Fran seemed to have a weight lifted from his shoulders. She cheerfully shouted in delight, confirming that her faith in Leonard was completely justified. Leonard smiled in reply, declaring that with his level, victory was certain. Ninian remained worried, reminding him that the opponent was a magic swordsman and questioning whether swordsmanship alone would suffice. Leonard only smiled reassuringly, telling her not to worry too much about that. A bespectacled man spoke up, asserting that there was no one in the world more of a genius than Leonard. The luxurious chandelier cast its light across the room where important plans were being discussed. The man nodded thoughtfully. After the explanation, he now understood the current situation. He looked straight at Leonard and asked to be certain that Leonard wanted him to witness the duel. Leonard nodded, explaining that since the match had such high stakes, he wanted to ensure there would be no cheating. The man smiled in agreement. After all, Leonard had saved Esther's life. His gaze grew sharp, seeming to distrust the opponent's sportsmanship. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a mysterious figure stood by a window, looking out with a calculating expression. His eyes glowed red with malice as he spoke Conrad's name. Conrad knelt prostrate before Counselor Pablo, the leader of the Moby Dick expedition and a powerful member of the council. Pablo said he had heard of the challenge and that this was a golden opportunity to take over the Aquamarine pharmacy. The old man produced a forbidden pill, telling Conrad to take it before the match to gain power beyond that of a swordmaster. Conrad appeared arrogant, believing he didn't need the drug to deal with that kid in an instant. But Pablo immediately radiated tremendous pressure, growling whether Conrad expected him to beg him to do this. He warned that such confidence from the opponent meant there was surely a plan, so they could not let this opportunity slip. Conrad bowed his head in fear and admitted his fault, vowing not to disappoint the old man and to seize Aquamarine at all costs. The upcoming life-or-death match would no longer be a fair contest, as the shadow of conspiracy began to fall over Leonard.